Hello and welcome to the Weekly Scroll podcast brought to you by the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan.
Oh, and I'm Jason. All right, I get to say my name. All right.
He gets to say his own name this week. What? Yeah. Well, now you're not. You weren't a guest. Now you're just a regular kind of.
Okay.
Intermittent, however we want to do it. So
I'll take it.
So, so as you just heard, Jason's on again. You get that velvety voice this morning, and it's not even just Jason's voice; it's Jason's morning voice.
Voice, folks.
You're welcome, listeners. Today, we are going to be going over Slayers, a game of mercenaries and monsters for hire in an endless city by Spencer Campbell of Guild RPGs. For me, not for you guys, I had to talk with Spencer Campbell yesterday. But if you're listening to this, it's probably not your yesterday, for a lengthy interview. Great guy, great creator, has done some really, really cool things with games, especially inspired by video games. Has a new Kickstarter campaign out right now. It's only running for 7 days. We're on day 5, I think. Shot past its funding goal. It's a game called Rune, which is a solo Souls-like ttrpg. So I'm sure we're going to talk about that on the podcast in the future. If you're listening to this episode will probably go up tomorrow, and you'll have a day or two to go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. But again, today we are going over Slayers. I have Slayers 1.0 somewhere in the boxes behind this green screen, and one day I will get all my books out of boxes and be able to show it off again. But Slayers 1.5, what we're going over today, it's basically just a new layout, is currently being printed, and that will be in my hand sooner than later. But before we get to Slayers, we are going to do what will end up probably being a pretty lengthy Kickstart the Podcast between all the physical rewards we've been getting and things we want to talk about with Zine Quest 4 going on. So we're just going to hop straight into that. How's that sound, Jason?
Sounds great. We both have stuff.
We both. So do you want to do physical first, or you want to go straight to the campaigns?
I guess we'll do physical first. I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say, then we can decide how many campaigns we want to go over.
Yeah.
So let's kick over to that window real quick. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Whatever, man. Whatever.
I'll go first then.
You go first. You probably have more stuff.
Probably. I'm gonna save one or two. Let's start with this right here. I should have taken them out of the plastic, but for those that, oh, hey, thanks for this sub, Ginger. That alert box is not in the middle. So sorry, podcast, we stream live, and sometimes you get to hear that. So for those that followed Zemo, which was the creator kind of ran replacement for Zine Quest 4 when Kickstarter decided to move Zine Quest for no real fucking reason. Mothership was kind of the primary pusher for Zemo. You know, I think there wasn't a game that had more projects, I think, than Mothership did. And some of those projects are starting to come out. So the first one I want to talk about is Knights of Lazarus from Spicy Tuna RPG. This is one I was really excited for because what it basically is a it's a fantasy-ish themed dungeon crawl for Mothership. But it's still Mothership, you know. It's kind of like,
wait, what does that mean? Fantasy. So I see like a dude with a sword on the front, but like when it's fantasy themed, but in a sci-fi environment, what does that mean?
So like Chronicles of Riddick, right, is in space, but I would say there's fantasy aspects to that because the guys are like knights. They're very armored. They even have like swords and shit. So if you look at even the front of this is clearly a spacesuit, right?
Yeah.
But it's got these like knightly kind of looks to it. So
kind of Warhammer almost in a way, 40K.
Kind of maybe a little bit because there's cathedrals and crypts and stuff throughout it, but it's still a Mothership adventure.
Okay.
So you're going through. So the Knights of Lazarus are renowned for being charitable contributors to purveyors of ancient knowledge. They delve for ideologies from hundreds of parallel thinking civilizations found across the galaxy. So they're an order that goes across a galaxy delving for knowledge and finding ancient civilizations and stuff. So that how it gives you that little bit of kind of fantasy twist to it a tiny bit, and it is very dungeon delvy. So of course I was like, okay, I can do like a sci-fi, sci fantasy dungeon delve.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the cover is beautiful.
Yeah,
Like
it's cool art.
if you're doing and not only that, it's not like I love that the name is like off to the side, not in the middle. Like it's just a cool layout. There's some other things that came with it. There's a lot of there are these kind of like note cards that you can use for a lot of things within the game. So like you can write down they're player handouts. Yeah. So this is called a giant ballista, right? Let's find one that's got a little bit more stuff going on. So this one is the knight effigy. Okay. This is the picture for those in podcast land. It is a picture of kind of like a knight in a like a inset. What am I thinking of? Like an inset kind of like archway, kind of like framed out, like a suit that you'd find.
It almost looks like a sarcophagus upright, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. And on the back it says general, and then it's got a tactics and combat section. So you can take notes for this as you use these for like pictures and stuff like that. So it's really cool that they gave you a lot of card handouts so that you can have a lot of character art. I love when you have modules, if you can do things like that. So and there's
realistically, who's gonna write on that stuff? I'm not.
I never would. I know people do.
Really? Yeah. That's crazy. I don't know. The collector in me, I think I just.
Oh yeah. I never would. I never ever would. There's a new game that we'll talk about eventually, probably from Longtail Games, who did like Tiny Dungeon, who it literally is like you write in the book, like please write in the book, like scar the book, do the thing, and I'm like, I'll buy two. The other part of Knights of Lazarus was Familiar Faces Volume 1. So this and the Familiar Faces notebook that came with it is a series of locations, storyline kind of seeds, NPCs, and little mini setting kind of campaign hooks in it, which is really cool. And you can use them for any part of Mothership. So you can look at this great layout here. This is one of the NPCs. So for those again that can't see, it's a really cool. It's a picture of the guy's face, but it's on this really great layout. It's got a name.
Yeah, it's like a vector illustration kind of. Looks like.
It says Mansoor Jaziri, mobile suit designer. And then when you go to the next page, there's 2 full pages on this character, including motivations, acquaintances, the services they do, like their history. So it's a really cool list of great NPCs. And then, like I said, there's some like locations, possible contracts, great resource for any Mothership adventure where you want to pop someone a little bit different in. So that is Knights of Lazarus and Familiar Faces. And then we will hop over to Jason real quick and talk about your physical reward.
All right. I thought you'd have more. So
we're gonna go back and forth. We'll just go back and forth.
Yeah. Okay. So first one I got is Mazes right here. Hopefully you guys can see it. Oh, I'm backwards, but anyway, I need to switch that. So Mazes is a classic fantasy RPG. I haven't read it yet, unfortunately, but the book's really nice. It's got this cloth cover. It's got like a gold inlay. It has this interesting kind of like a dust jacket sort of thing around it, but it only goes through the center. It's like this band. It was really cool art on it that is also on the inside. So the artist's name is escaping me, so forgive me for that. But the inside is all black and white, which to me is very appropriate for this kind of game. It's classic fantasy reimagined. And it's got 2 bookmarks, 2 ribbon bookmarks, which, we love those things. And because I'm Ryan's postman right now, I actually have his. I just got the book personally. So that was my book. But Ryan also got all of the goodies, as you know. So this is the first time I believe he's seeing this. So
yeah,
it comes with some cards. This is what's unique about the game. So it has these special polyhedral dice right here that are like big, fat, chunky ones, and they're associated with each class. So it's kind of a simple mechanic. There's also these coins here, which again, I haven't read the book, so I'm not sure if that's initiative or something else. It also came with this little zine here and character sheets, of course, for all of the around the table play we do. And then we got this really cool GM screen. which is by the same artist that did the cover art, and it's really great stuff. I feel like it's cool to like punctuate the cover and have like establish the style with full color stuff, and then on the inside's all black and white. So that's Mazes. Eventually we'll play it. Hopefully, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. And real quick, the
it.
same company who does Mazes, I think it's Ninth Level Games.
Yeah, it's Chris O'Neill is the creator. Yeah.
Yeah, the guys that do the Dark Tower game, right? Like, yeah. So
I keep
with
thinking
like
of Stephen King when I say Dark Tower, but I know what you're talking about.
But it's got the tower in the middle and everything. They already did, I think, or in the process. I know I backed it. I don't remember, but they did a Mazes version of Dark Tower as an RPG, not a board game.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no. The dark. That's right. I did see that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool how translating a board game. It's like going the reverse. Usually it's the other way around.
Yep. Well, there's so much lore in the board game itself. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
next up, Into the Odd.
Oh.
The guys here talked about it. You guys already know and see it, but it's a beautiful book. Chris McDowell obviously did the writing, and of course our favorite Johan Nor did all of the layout. Beautiful matte pages, easy to read. Unfortunately, mine had some printing errors, but still usable, still totally usable. But that's it. Just a simple book. No crazy rewards or anything like that outside of this. But it's got a nice cloth spine and then kind of a spot coated cover. So like the artwork here, you probably can't tell, but it's got a little bit of a shine to it if I like rotate it around. So pretty cool stuff. And I'm really loving this size. So I've noticed a lot of like books in this, indie space or smaller, which is cool. Rather than these giant ones, which I'm about to show right now. So the last one I got is Vaesen. Not sure how quite to pronounce it. It's a free league setting. It's a game system using their Year Zero engine. But this is their expansion for Mythic Great Britain. So really cool. Yeah, in Ireland. Yeah, it's in Great Britain and Ireland. You're right. So if you guys have not picked up a free league game, even if you don't play it, I highly recommend you because they create some beautiful ass books. I mean, matte, thick paper, not the shitty glossy, most marketed game in the industry style book. Consistent artwork, design all throughout. God, who's the artist's name? I got to give him credit. Johan Egerkrans. I probably butchered that, but fun fact, he's also doing all of the art for a new game that Free League is going to kickstart called Dragon's Bane on August 30th, but you can see his stuff there. So amazing stuff. It came with an adventure book, came with the expansion book, obviously, came with a let me show you here. Came with maps and handouts. So you got this thing. And then I got a little piece of artwork. So cool stuff.
And that's your Vaesen, right? I think I might actually have mine.
This is mine. Yeah, I left all yours in the box. Yeah.
Yeah. I have mine.
Probably over here, but I didn't open all.
I have to swing by your place sooner than later.
I got like a pyramid of boxes that are for you. Like at my house.
It should be it. That should be it. I just have to find time to swing down. It might actually be next week. I got to stretch of days off. I might swing down. All right. What else we got? That's yours?
That's it for me. Haul? That's it for me.
All right.
That's my haul.
I got two more I want to go over real quick for physical rewards.
Okay.
One. This is a little different and fantastic. So Perplexing Ruins is awesome. I really like their work. When Fallen first came out, it's their current game that they're finishing fulfillment on. I backed it at digital because I didn't know Perplexing as well. Then I read a bunch of their other games like Tomb and just fell in love with it, but the campaign was over and I couldn't get the physical rewards. It's one of two projects that I actually dropped from physical to digital because that's not normally me. That I regretted more than literally anything because the physical rewards for Fallen are gorgeous and the other one is Orbital Blues. I will never kick myself for not getting the Night Edition and the tape from Chris Bissett, the tape that he put out. Like I'll never kick myself. The difference with this though is Perplexing is an amazing human being, And I asked throughout the fulfillment of the physical rewards if and when there's going to be more, like if there's extras, like when you can get them and stuff. And then they posted, hey, if you want to review our game, I'll send you review copies. So I hit him up and was like, I would love review copies, and or just wait till they go public and I'll just buy them. I just want the physical stuff. And he was like, no, I got it. I got you. So not only did he send me and Hunter review copies of the entire physical campaign, but my version actually got, and I'll go over all the pieces, these, for those that are aware, if you can see the kind of paper, you'll know the thick paper. Yep. Oh, and if for those that can read this real quick, of course it's LFOSR.
Oh yeah,
and
I have some of this stuff.
You know I'm obsessed with LFOSR. So if you can get a Perplexing Ruins LFOSR, and he just sent this to me, both versions of the actual core books here, the Fallen actual book and the Hillgrab city setting, both LFR, both absolutely fucking stunning. This game is amazing. We will be reading through it on the podcast. We might get to have a little chat with somebody about it. We'll see. So Fallen is a Baroque and grim fantasy tabletop role-playing games. I got to chat with Perplexing a little bit. I love Tomb. If you haven't read Tomb from Perplexing, it's a very small game. And one of the things I said to him when we were chatting was, Fallen feels like Tomb taken as far as you can with it. And he was like, it is. That's exactly what it was. Like, I wanted to turn it in, and then I threw this like Baroque aspect to it. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, you can see the direction. And I love Tomb as a game. It's a game I really want to run on stream. But the book itself is absolutely stunning. Perplexing art is really, really cool. The layout inside is really, really well done. So these are absolutely gorgeous. And on top of the actual game itself, Fallen, which is amazing, the city setting, which is amazing, there's this like Oracle deck card that came with it. I actually got 2 of these because he sent one as Patreon rewards. So maybe we can do like a giveaway or something for some of the extras. There's a bunch of things on the back of it, like weather, plot twist, NPCs. They're gorgeous.
How does the front work? The bingo side, the bingo card.
So you roll. It's D66.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There is a stunning character sheet. The name of the artist completely escapes me, but it is absolutely beautiful. Gotta check that out. There are maps of the city. So this is like a one small section of it, and then here's like a whole Hillgrab map. It's all black and white, fills up the whole page, looks really, really beautiful. Then on top of all that, there are pamphlet adventures, 5 of them.
Damn.
By some really amazing people too. We got LFOSR did one called Forever Hollow, and it looks really, really amazing. All of the pamphlet adventures are so well done. There's one from Jim Hall at Booklet Games. There's one from Josh Demansky. There's a solo adventure for Fallen from Joy Peddler Games, which looks really cool. I really love that a lot of games are giving people solo aspects to it. Like Primal Quest is working on a solo game. So really, really cool. And then this final one that looks absolutely stunning is called By the Moon. It's amazing. So I actually doubled up and got a set of the adventure zines. Like I said, I have an extra of the Oracle card. So when we go over Fallen, we'll probably do a giveaway for the set of the adventure pack and the Oracle card that we can give out. And on top of that, I got the, last but not least, the Fallen bookmark. Nice. Love me a good bookmark. I also have the Ward bookmark from the Patreon, but just saying. So that's Fallen. So this is one of the 2 of my kind of like grail physical rewards that actually got, because of the just amazing generosity of the creator. I was able to have this. Very excited to talk about this on stream. It should be coming up in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We'll be going over Fallen. So super, super excited to go over that. It's a really gorgeous, amazing game. And the physical rewards are just absolutely stunning. So good job, Perplexing Ruins. Seriously, they're absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. And then I think I'm on to my final Kickstart the Podcast physical reward for the day. Let me just do a little digging through some of the stuff here, and we can talk about what is my most anticipated game this year, and you know what I'm talking about. That is Cyber Metal 2012 from Adam Vass. This book is fucking beautiful. First of all, for those that can't see
it's shiny.
It's shiny, but it's this interesting format. Like it's wide, not tall.
Yeah.
So and I love these books that have these like interesting format. Torque from Will Jobst has a similar kind of size to it. But yeah, there is foiling on the cover. There's like holographic foiling, which is absolutely beautiful. The layout itself is great, and I love. So this style of book, do you see how open it gets? Like it lays super
you can lay
flat.
it open, flat. Yeah.
So, and then right off the front page, welcome to Pentaware. Please enter your password and a blood sample. So, for those that don't know, Cyber Metal, you are citizens of Pentagram City, a walled-off metropolis ravaged by crumbling technology, past war, and the after effects of satanic rituals years prior. Hack your bodies, spill your blood, and annihilate your enemies in an attempt to survive in a world that stopped caring about you long ago. Long story short, they like assassinate Reagan and summon a pit to hell in the middle of this giant city, and you get to be like a cyberpunk demon body hacking or demonic body hacking like character within this world trying to survive. Like, are you gonna hack your body? Are you gonna be in a demon cult? Like, what are you gonna do? But the layout, I mean, this there's a lot of green on this, so it's not coming through on the green screen. But this is like peak Adam Vass. Like, the art in it is amazing. The layout is absolutely stunning. The game itself is absolutely fantastic. It's D100. It looks really good. I mean, I've got to read through it, and I'm going to read through it like 2 or 3 more times before we talk about it on stream, because of course we fucking will be. But that's just the main book. So let's talk about all the rest of the stuff that came with it. The Y2K zine, which was like an intro. Again, there's a lot of green on this, so it's not coming through. But basically, it was like a breakdown of like how to play the game before the game came out that you could have. But
so it's like a quick start kind of thing.
It's kind of like a quick start kind of thing. So it explains skills. It's like a D100 like roll under like dice pool system. Really cool. Yeah, really fantastic. The art is amazing. Again, the green is not coming through. On top of that, there's a zine called Downloadable Content, which is expanded content and adventure for Cyber Metal. Again, stunning. More and more just keeps falling out. I didn't even know some of the stuff that was in here. But again, gorgeous art, laid out really beautifully. There's a core vid, which might be a slight nod to Spencer. You should definitely get this. On top of that, there's still even more. So we got, this is an art book. So it's a lot of flash art from Adam. Let's open it up. There's like this kind of almost like tattoo style flash art, which looks really cool. On top of that, I backed at a tier where I got a couple of hand-done pieces.
No way. I'm sure that was the Uber tier. Of course you did.
Of course I did. And I've been chatting with Adam, and I didn't get one. I got 2.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. For those that can't see, the first one is this kind of like cyber variant on the tattoo art that we were just talking about. And the second is this character doing kind of like a My Fair Yorick kind of situation, where he's holding this almost visor with this like skull face coming off the front of it, staring deep into it. Looks really, almost kind of looks like Cyber Strahd a little bit, kind of.
Yeah.
But it's really, hand done and inked and everything. So of course I got that. There's a bajillion stickers that I got with it. There's an even more bajillion stickers. I think these are temporary tattoos of some of the art from the
that's cool.
tattoo style book. And then there's a
you
whole
don't have
massive...
any more room for tattoos though.
No, I got some space. I got a sticker pack. That's all the stickers for Cyber Metal specifically, which looks really amazing. This one's got this kind of like upside down. I love this logo. It's an upside down star with like a kind of like a
pentagram.
Clippy face on it.
Yeah.
So it's a pentagram with a Clippy
eyes,
face. Yeah. And it says, "I'll see you in hell, pentagram.city." There was a double-sided poster.
Oh my god.
So I got 2, so I got on both sides. And
Sweet.
last but not least is a t-shirt hand bleached by Adam of Cyber Metal.
Damn.
Yeah. For those those listening, you know what I mean by bleach. Like when you throw bleach on a black shirt and it gives it kind of like faded orange stuff on it. So yeah. So that is Cyber Metal. Cannot wait. And I guess I can announce now. I talked about it a little bit with Spencer yesterday. Next Monday, the 22nd, Adam Vass will be on the podcast to talk about all things Cyber Metal and all the rest of their games. And very. Oh, I forgot. I
know you've been working
it too.
Oh, nice. I know you've been working up for that interview for a long time, so that's cool. That's coming through.
When we started the podcast and thought interviews were even a possibility, our first one being friend of the show Johan Noor, might know him from a little game called Merkborg. When Hunter and I were talking about people that we wanted at the top of our list, it was people like Perplexing and Spencer and Diego Noguera, and number one has always been Adam Vass. It's always been Adam Vass for both of us. So I'm going to try not to freak out and hyperventilate when I actually get to sit down and talk to, one of my favorite creators in the entire industry. Pretty much the person who got me into like the indie tabletop role-playing game space. Like I was deep into 5e. I got some of their, I think it was like Zine Quest 2, like compilations of tabletop games. And I was like, wish you were here. And I was like, oh my God, this is a whole new world. And it opened up my eyes to all of it. And I've just been a huge fan of the way that they do, just like emotional storytelling and emergent narrative and things like that, like Necronautilus. And I even got an extra Necronautilus just so I could have both the variants of the covers as part of this Kickstarter too. So because of course it did. But yeah, exactly. So that is Cyber Metal. Very, very excited to read through that. And very, very, very excited to talk to Adam Vass. We'll be going over, I'll talk to him for as long as he'll let us, Monday at, I think it's like 9 a.m. or something like that. So Pacific time. And I'll be rocking my Cyber Metal shirt. So those, I think, are all the physical rewards we have for today.
Just a few.
Just a couple. I know there's more. The thing is, like, I have thrown some stuff. I have thrown some stuff into piles that are now in boxes that are now. I moved months ago, and I still have yet to unpack a bunch of stuff because I have. Laziness mixed with procrastination mixed with executive function disorder. So, drop my fallen sticker. So let me get this stuff out of the way, and we're actually going to kick over to now some digital campaigns.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go to this window. The first we're going to talk about today is Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland Total Carnage Edition. So I was actually lucky enough to win. They did an Instagram giveaway of the first book, and it actually had the Diego Noguera like holograph cover art for the special Kickstarter exclusive edition of the first book. So of course we're going to talk about this at some point. I've talked with the creator about going over it at some point. It's just it's a bigger book than we usually go over. Mm-hmm. So it's one of the ones we really need to sit down and prep more and like parse out like the really, really important information because we can't dig through the entire book. It's like hundreds of pages. But this is the second printing, the Total Carnage Edition. It has a $15,000 funding goal with 24 days left. So we got about 3 weeks left on it. It's got a 15K goal that's at 13.3K. So it's got to fund, but let's push it through stretch goals. So let's get out there and do Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. For those that don't know, this is the reprint of the core rules with a Z because 80s. And Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland is a gonzo vomit punk post-apocalyptic cassette futurism tabletop RPG. It's a visceral mashup of 80s and 90s pop culture mixed with a grimdark blender of barfed onto the table.
A lot of vomit.
It's a lot of gonzo vomit, ultra violent stuff. You can be like, your hair is a thing that matters. Like, do you want to go mohawk or do you want to go mullet or whatever? That's like a thing in the game. Like, you can be a fucking unicorn. It's like Mad Max mixed with like Garbage Pail Kids is how it's always struck itself to me. That's a good way to explain it. Yeah. There's 11 their Bruticorn is a class. It's a biomechanical bicorn, so it's a unicorn, but it's got 2 horns. that have been exiled from society. Cosmic Barbarian, Cyberskin, Holy Smiter, Night Stalker, over 100 unique monsters. The art is very 80s, 90s gonzo. The covers are stunning. The inside is black and white. Man, I wish there was color inside, because a lot of this would pop, but I can imagine the cost of making how vibrant this would be insane. But they have a new cover art. They are actually adding a new a dust jacket to the Total Carnage edition. The back art looks like I love, for those that can't see because you're podcasting, there's that little clip at the top that you can hang it like when you buy like an action figure or something from the store. There's that little like way you can put it on the bar. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, and then it looks like there's all this art on it that looks like pogs and tokens, and then so it looks like the back of like an action figure pack is what the back of the cover looks like now, which is really cool. There's a bunch of new stuff. The mascot got an upgrade. There is and with some of the add-ons, you can get pog slammers. You can get pog carrying tubes, of course. There's the Spakes bulk soft
I love
covers.
the cover. It's like a Sega Genesis cover.
Oh yeah, and even has like 8 meg insta save. Yeah. And this is a supplement and adventure for Neon Lords, and now you can get it as a softback print if you want as an add-on. And then they are working with Black Rainbow to do some different dice pack sets. I thought about getting the dice pack sets here because you get basically a big old dice bag that honestly almost looks like a climbing chalk bag. It's so big. You get like stickers, you get dice, you get a bunch of stuff, but I have so many goddamn dice. But I backed at a level where you get the there is this what's it called? It's like a Your Eyes Only super secret pack. Yeah, the top secret Neon Maniacs Eyes Only pack is what I wanted to get. I would have backed, if I could have got the dice and the Maniacs Only pack, I would have got both. But the rewards were split in such a way that you could only get one or the other, which is, I mean, that's upsetting to me because, you know, I want to get everything. I would have literally got all of it if I could have added on all of it. But it was limited options for the dice packs. But there's also a t-shirt, kind of like, it's a baseball tee, but it's not 3/4. It's just regular.
You know what it is? It is exactly like the Hellfire Club t-shirt with obviously different art from Stranger Things.
Oh,
so
well then
there's kind of a little bit of a nod there.
There you go. I have not watched season 4 yet. So
I just watched the first episode and I was like, oh shit, that looks like the Stranger Things shirt. And
yeah,
I have a feeling it probably is.
A lot of people were bummed by season 3, but then season 4 came back and was like the biggest thing ever streamed in the world, and apparently it's really good. So I'll watch it someday. You can also get a like a foam front mesh back like trucker hat. You can get the patch dad hat. You can get logo patches, posters. You can get fucking everything. So of course I got a shitload. I got the t-shirt. I got the hat. I got the patch. I backed on day 1, so I get the Pog Slammer. So because when we play this on stream, I'm going fucking balls to the wall on this. Like, this has got to be the most gonzo bullshit we ever do. So I want the full kit. So this looks really amazing. Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, second reprinting, Total Carnage edition. Go back the shit out of this right now. They are what, like 1,700 away from their goal. And who knows? Maybe we'll get a chance to chat about this one a little bit further. We'll see what happens.
Oh yeah.
Timing.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of being a kid.
Yeah, hardcore. But like, if you could be a kid but a grown up and like murder stuff really
like
brutally.
with vomit and stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The next one is Funguyable. We've talked about this before, so I'm not going to dig in it too far. This is from Tom Owens, Dice Maven. This is Funguyable because there's an I.
Oh.
It's fungible, right? It is about NFTs and stuff, but there's mushrooms. So Funguyable. See how it is? See the little...
I got it.
So it's a solo, wretched and alone tabletop journaling game about the horrors of cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and tech culture. And it's a little bit different. They changed the rules up a little bit. So instead of a dice tower, there's an exploding dice mechanism in it, which looks really, really cool. I love the dice tower, but man, every time you have to rebuild it and do stuff, it's it's a thing. And I'm really excited to see hacks of Wretched Alone with things like these dice mechanics and stuff. So it looks really, really cool. It is funded, but it could fund for a lot more. We're at 99 backers. There are stretch goals all the way out to like 3,500. But some of the earlier stretch goals that are already done is more written content and replayability within it, more illustrations, full color interior. But go through that. What I want to do is some updates. We've already talked about it on stream. There is an LFOSR set that you can get for this. And I've been talking to Dice Maven off stream, talking to Tom off stream about some of it. I actually have some of the cover art images for that. So I'm going to kick over to that real quick. We'll talk about that in a second. So look at this image here, right? This is the cover they decided on. Big old mushrooms, got the logo across the front of it, right? But that paper, I'm going to switch to the second view again for those in podcast land. It's the paper is so thick. Like LFOSR's paper is already thick. This is a new kind of paper. It almost looks tattooed onto the paper, and the whole right side of it has these giant, very vibrant green mushrooms, and the logo Fungiable is middle left of it.
It looks like papyrus or something with a texture, man. It's like crazy.
So what it is, do you see this little section right here that's got like writing on it? So LFOSR and Tom went kind of nuts on this paper. They found this recycled paper that's like double recycled or something. It's mixed with the junk mail of the company that makes the paper.
Oh, damn.
So
that's awesome.
it's like bills and stuff like that. It's all this like which for crypto tech NFT stuff, like how does it get cooler than that? When you hold it up to the light, you can apparently see some of the writing on the junk mail on each cover, and all of the paper will be different because it's so like unique to it. So it's gonna be like even crazier LFOSR than it normally is. And on top of that, I think they posted a more silver version of this, but I wasn't able to find it, and Tom didn't send me the image. But there's actually like a challenge coin that comes with it. You actually get like some people have like physical Bitcoins. This is actually like a spore coin, like the mock-up. So you're actually on that tier going to be able to actually hold a physical coin in your hand of the like cryptocurrency that is in the system, a spore coin.
That's cool.
So this is a mock-up of the spore coin. So for those that have not backed this, you really fucking should. What is
the tier for that?
So it is the LFOSR tier. I don't even know if there are any. Oh no, so there are. If you go down, it's the $75 tier, the Spore Affiliate Deluxe. There are 11 versions left. 11 of these LFOSR coin tiers left. I can't believe there are any left. It's LFOSR and a gorgeous looking Wretched and Alone game that sounds fucking amazing. And on top of that, there is a Sam Lee Goblin Mixtape on Twitter. Does really cool things where they make playlists for TTRPGs and for other things. You can get like curated playlists. So there's a curated Fungiable playlist done by Sam Lee, Goblin Mixtape, on top of the LFOSR tier and the challenge coin and everything. So this is the normal cover, which is these like mushrooms coming out of this guy's head who's just like screaming, and as the computers behind him are just like have the red, not tech, like the stock line going straight down. It looks amazing. This project should blow up way bigger than it is. So people, go back this project. It looks amazing. You're going to get a super kind of exclusive LFOSR version of things, even beyond their normal exclusivity. You're going to get the Spore coin with that too. It looks fucking cool. And if there's any more updates, we'll keep updating this each week as we go. But that's Fungiable from Dice Maven or Tom Owen. Definitely need to go check that out. Let me close out some of these images here. Another Wretched Alone game that I want to talk about is called Wretched Wasteland. This is from Scott Watkinson. Great writer that we follow on the IGs. It is a revised and reprinted version of a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Again, Wretched and Alone solo game.
You know what's cool about the cover? Really quick, it's like an inverse. it's a negative, and it reminds me of like kind of like a flash of a nuke or something, you know, like where it's just it's cool.
So that's the regular cover. I have the screen up right now. It's these two hardcore Mad Max style, like post-apocalyptic guys, one kneeling down, one standing behind them with guns and all sorts of stuff. And like Jason just said, it's this kind of like almost like maroon and gold negative of the image with this blue sky behind it. It pops like crazy. It's absolutely gorgeous. If I scroll down a little farther, there's the actual like inked image of it, which again is absolutely beautiful. Yeah. This is by Farron Zalabarder. But yeah, they obviously like threw like a negative and put color on that. But yeah, it's stunning. It's a really, really gorgeous. It is a solo journaling RPG about survival in a world torn apart by war. It is a game about the few people that still inhabit the earth and the dangers they face. All the characters are scouts from the Compound, a small bastion of civilization, and as a scout, you have seen what the wasteland has done to people, how it has infected their minds and turned them into murderers and cannibals. You need patience and a slow pace to survive in this world, but you must now move at a dangerous speed to make it back in time. You must traverse the wasteland, and that is your job. And there are a million ways to die and only one to survive. So you, again, wretched and alone. Gotta love the wretched, and the system itself is fantastic.
Have you played a journaling game yet? I've yet to try a journaling game.
I've messed around with some. I've read through the wretched. I've looked at the ways they run. Really, it just comes down to time, and I've been wanting to do one on stream in the mornings for a while. I love the system. I love the wretched alone system, but no, like in depth, beginning to end, the whole time it takes to run one, especially with the dice tower. I've not got a chance to actually sit down. One of the problems is I don't own a dice tower right now, and I need to get one. But I want to, and there's other ones out there that do it a little bit differently, like the solo games, like we said, like Rune and 12 Years. And on top, there's other ones like Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard and things like that are more like prompt based. But right. I actually saw the Cassie Mothwin playthrough of the Wretched she did. That's absolutely fucking amazing. If you guys don't know that, you should go check out her channel on our YouTube. She was like fully immersed, had like spacesuit kind of thing. Like she had like dirt on her face and blood and stuff. Like went hard on that, and it was absolutely really stunning. So go check that out. This is funded, but again, you could dig into stretch goals if we keep funding this. This has 10 days left to go in Zine Quest 4. So really cool. Go check that one out. I got two more, and then we'll actually get into the game. This is The Blood Ship Returns, a tabletop Metroidvania adventure zine. You must escape the vampire space fortress to rescue the Rocket Kingdoms. So this is a sequel to Super Blood Harvest, which is absolutely fucking amazing. I have the Super Blood Harvest like hardback compendium of the first 3 books. It's so cool, and the art style on it is amazing. It's just kind of like what's the word I'm looking for?
It's isometric. Yeah.
And it's super like kind of pixel pop colors, like very kind of like CMYK-ish, but a little bit faded. The layout looks absolutely stunning. And one of the things I love about this Kickstarter page specifically is there are a shitload of pages of layout already on it. There's literally like probably 15 pages of art and layout that you can see. And I think that's such a smart way to do a Kickstarter, to be like, look how cool this book looks, because art sells, and getting to actually see what's in it sells. But all of the art through this game and the previous ones has this kind of like isometric, very like contrasty color pop art that looks really cool. But to talk about the game itself real quick, all the Rocket Kingdoms believed the vampires forever fallen, all memory of their blood imperium passed to legend. But from the darkest night it drifted, the blood ship, thirsty, carving a path of carnage toward desolate Mars, the abandoned seat of lost dominion. And you, among the unlucky captives, trawled into the ship's sloshing bowel. So this is a Metroidvania adventure zine, a 35-room spaceship dungeon bursting with adversaries and potential allies, tricks, traps, and treasure. A powder keg, puzzle box, Zelda-like space adventure as imagined by Gnostic monks. It's split into 2 softcover booklets, a player-facing map book, each room fully illustrated, exploring the blood ship in a choose-your-own-adventure meets Where's Waldo style that's 80 pages long, and an appendix for the referee with a bestiary of 30 unique creatures, dozens of treasures, and a set of simple self-contained rules on Into the Odd.
Wow.
Right? A detachable cover holds both books. A playmat on the cover interior provides an unlabeled mini-map and tables of astrological events and wandering monsters. How fucking awesome does that sound?
That's crazy. What I love about the art too is it almost has like this, there's these dots here and there. It's almost like connect the dot somewhat on the characters and stuff, but then that's also carried through to the maps. Yeah. So it has this very like cool vibe to it.
Yeah, the artist is, I mean, it's, come on. The tabletop author and illustrator with credits including Silent Titan, Super Blood Harvest, Troika. You might recognize a little bit of the art style from Dancing with Bullets Under a Neon Sun.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what it reminds me of. So I didn't even realize. Okay.
There you go. That's Dirk Lichty. I want to say Lichty is the illustrator. So fuck, is this absolutely stunning. I don't understand how this isn't funded. There's 16 games to go. It's at $7,200 out of a $9,999 goal. I'm going to freak the fuck out if this doesn't fund, because Super Blood Harvest is amazing. Space Vampires. Come on. Yeah. So it's at, it needs about 18 hundo. No.
Yeah.
28 hundo. Yeah, 28 in 16 days. 192 backers. Please go fucking back this. It looks amazing. It's so absolutely fucking stunning. And Super Blood Harvest is a fantastic game. So definitely go check that out. And the last one I want to talk about real quick today is Lilinkali, A Guide to a Secret World. This is from Bats or John Battle. Love the fuck out of John Battle. With like people like John Battle, Jared Sinclair, Micah Anderson, they're people that really dig into the like, how do I even say this? Like the thought in the game, not even just like game theory, but like, you know, kind of like
what games are,
games apart,
what they can do, and
making you think about the way that you play the games and really pushing, like Anti-Sisyphus is the thing that Jared Sinclair did, and we talked about it before. It's like dissecting what games are, why you play them, what they can be. It's a really,
I was gonna say, you know what it reminds me of? Remember the game Inside? They did that same thing. It was kind of like an observation on what it is like to be in a game or control somebody in a game. And so it's like, deconstructing that idea. So that reminds me of this.
Yeah, I think deconstruction is a great way to talk about the way that they do some stuff in their game. So if you haven't checked out Anti-Sisyphus, it's like a thought exercise and thought experiment about like what gaming is, mixed with kind of a hint of like fuck youism in it a bit. And I love that about all the people that do those things. So John Battle did a great video on Anti-Sisyphus and has done some other great videos. But has made some really amazing games like That Dungeon, My Body is a Cage, things that we're going to go over on the stream at some point too. But Lilinkali, A Guide to a Secret World, is a one-of-a-kind book that functions as a tabletop game, a literary book, and a guidebook to a secret world. So that's another thing. It's making things more thought-provoking in the way that games are made and designed and stuff. So this book can be done in a bunch of different ways. So the story, she told me that fairies want our humanity. They want to take it from us. All the little names that make us up. They did this by challenging us to games. Winner takes all. It's only scary if it's for real, she said. So don't be afraid. These are the games she showed me. When we would play them, she would say, I promise to keep you safe. I promise to protect you. Then she would walk me through the rules. Sometimes she would hold my hand. That part isn't necessary, she said. I promise to keep you safe. I promise to protect you. You can hold my hand if you need to. And remember, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. So Lilinkali, A Guide to a Secret World. It's a special book. It's an experiment of form, a marriage of fiction and play, the end product of the lyric game movement. It's a guide to surviving encounters with fairies, jokingly called evil WarioWare, as it's filled with a plethora of tiny games that fairies will challenge you to. A collection of schoolyard games wrapped in horror experiences, all wrapped inside of its own fiction. It is a novel. It can be read and experienced as such. It is a guidebook. There are sections that detail rules and explain spells. It is a lyric game. It's meant to be played. Like, it's just an experiment on form, like I said.
I feel like the only way to really get a vibe, you just have to read it, right?
You just have to read it.
It sounds so different.
And that's exactly what I was talking about. Like, I know that Bats has talked before about like just pushing games. Like, as its form, it seeks to push the boundaries of a game's poeticism. It's more interested in the experience of reading the game as opposed to the experience of sitting at a table or even playing the game. And this is what I was talking about a second ago, like the way that like you think about games completely differently, even not even about playing games, but about the structure of games and how we interact with games. It's more of, it's almost like it feels a little bit like, why are words escaping? Because I'm tired. It's almost more like an anthropologic kind of view of games, more of like how we as people and as a society interact with games. And the thought behind how games even work in a meta structure as opposed to even playing the game itself. And I fucking love the shit out of that, like this thought-provoking views on that. So like they, Bats has a book called Nerves, which is a lot of articles written about games. Like I said, there is Anti-Sisyphus, even Mike Anderson did like Penicillin. So there's a lot of people that do these things that make you think about games in a different way, and I absolutely love that. So that's what I'm super excited about with Lilinkali. So it is laid out by Micah Anderson, and we're going to talk about them sooner than later, or with them sooner than later, about the new pearlescent version of Bastards that came out, which is stunning. So this project is funded at 11 grand out of a $6,200 goal, but there are stretch goals. So the book is funded. There's only going to be 250 hardbacks of it. At 10K, which they've already passed, you get a book ribbon and a bigger print run. At 15K, there's stitch binding. But what I really want to see it get to is a 20K. It's professionally printed deluxe hardcover with cloth cover and all the fixins. Basically, you turn the book into like a stunning, almost like collector's kind of tabletop version. It's literally like coffee table version. It's I want it real bad. So let's get this back for another like 9K with 13 days to go, so we can get the peak version of Lilinkali from John Battle. Super fucking excited for this game. This experience, can't wait to have it. There is a video on the Kickstarter page and on their itch page. I highly suggest you watch it. It's 6 minutes long, so I'm not going to watch it here on stream. And as far as a podcast is concerned, I'm not going to play a video for them. But if you get a chance to go check out Lilinkali in the video, again, Battle does amazing videos, so check that out. It's really, really stunning. And I think that's finally the end, an hour in, of our Kickstart the Podcast segment.
Just a little bit of stuff to talk through, I guess. Just a bit. So we're actually going to get into Slayers now, from Spencer Campbell. Again, if you're listening to this, the previous episode of this, I think it's got to be, what are we on, 37, 38? Will be the interview with, can't believe we've done 38 episodes, will be the interview with Spencer Campbell, where we talk about Rune, touch on Slayers a little bit, and a lot of other stuff, just get some insight into the way that they create games. So let me actually kick over to that, and this right here is Slayers. This is actually Slayers 1.5, which is currently in the midst of being printed, so it can be shipped out. It's basically the same as 1, which we both read, and then I was like, oh shit, I completely forgot to throw 1.5 into the Dropbox. So this has got a new layout, new art, new everything, and it looks... I thought Slayers was really good. I think the layout on this obviously is a big improvement. It's great. Yeah. There's a lot more consistency to it. Mike Riemann did the art design and layout, edited by Will Yobst. So go check Will Yobst out as well. They recently did a game called Torque. So this is the inspiration page and all of the stuff on the front of that. I love the back of this. Just like the page in the back, like the blue green, there's a consistency to the color blue that's used about it. That's really good. But Slayers, created by Spencer Campbell. Table of contents. Spencer, this is one of the first games I've seen from Spencer Campbell that is not hyperlinked. I knew you were gonna say that.
Come on, man. Come on. It's my legacy in tabletop role playing games.
Yeah.
I've had like 4 people shoot me messages like, I've hyperlinked my games because of you, and I was like, you're welcome, world. But almost all of their stuff is hyperlinked, so I don't know why this one isn't. So we should get an update and talk about hyperlink in this table of contents here. But I love the way it's laid out in the table of contents. It's a cool like kind of like back and forth kind of layout to the style of it. Goes all the way down to 94 pages. We got what is Slayers, character creation, the cities, the district, the monsters. So we're going to go through the obviously like the game rules, touch on a little bit of the district stuff, and that'll make sense as we go. Maybe touch on some of the monster sections, and then we don't read We don't read adventures, but we can touch on that a little bit. So it's not, if we take out, some of the, a lot of the city and district section, it's not that long, but the book overall is like close to 100 pages. And then, some new art here on the front. I'll read through this. What is Slayers? Slayers is a tabletop role-playing game of monster hunters for hire. Slayers wander a haunted city, cursed long ago, to expand towards the horizon forever, with neighborhoods appearing and dissolving overnight. Slayers clean out the monsters that infest the alleyways and shadows, and those that the city seems to be manifesting on its own. The world of Slayers is just on the cusp of an industrial revolution, with new technology clashing with the arcane ways of old. It's Slayer be slain, so you better get to work. That hooks me. I like it.
Yeah, and so basically, those of you out there, he credits some inspiration toward the beginning. The vibe that I really got, I'm a big Dishonored fan, the video game. This is exactly that in terms of the setting on the brink of industrial revolution. It's the clashing of upcoming technology with old arcane art. So that is the vibe I got from this. He also credits Bloodborne and some other things. Blades in the Dark, of course. But if you guys want like a mental, an image of what to expect, I mean, that's kind of what I got from this.
Yeah, and we talked a lot yesterday about video games being huge inspirations for a lot of their games, and that makes sense. Slayers is a rules-light system for fast action and exciting combat. Anyone that's read any of Spencer's games knows that that's pretty much the core of a lot of the way that they do things. Like if you read Nova or Light, and the Lumen system in general, the system that he created, that is the core of a lot of it. It's got kind of like video gamey, like fast action, it's not super crunchy. So in order to do this, the classes have been designed with asymmetry, which is cool, front and center. At its core, the game uses a resolution mechanic called the rule of 4+ for everything, but how each class approaches this mechanic in combat is quite different. So what is asymmetry? Asymmetry in an RPG, to Spencer, means that each class feels different from the others. So basically, instead of you got a wizard, you got a fighter, both want to kill monsters, but both basically do it in the same way. You roll a d20, you add a modifier. So it's just the ways in which those things play out is what makes those classes different. So what's different about Slayers is that the character classes themselves all do those things in different ways. It's not the same mechanic for everyone. It's not the same dice for everyone. It's a little bit different. So each class feels very different instead of just kind of skinned a little bit differently. So, for example, the blade, is that hyperlinked to go to page 18?
No.
Come on. Come on. How this is done, the blade is designed to simulate stylish and fast sword fighting, and so they use exploding dice to create huge combos of attacks. The gunslinger has to manage a pool of 6 bullets during combat, deciding how many to spend on a given attack and when to reload. These two different approaches help you feel your character, and the best part is both are resolved using the rule of 4+, so combat moves quickly despite everyone playing their own version of the game.
Yeah, I really love the gunslinger, how you have a die for each bullet, and that's a cool concept. It's like a dice pool, but then you can manage that however you see fit.
So some more art throughout this. I love when there are pages like this in books where it's kind of a full page piece of art and just like right in the middle is a paragraph.
Yeah.
So it really helps to separate, some longer writing sections and stuff.
Well,
it's
not
really
only that, but it helps the atmosphere, right? Not only are you reading this evocative text, but like you're given an image too. So it just helps put everything in perspective.
Yeah. So the setting, Slayers takes place in the city, capital T, capital C, a cursed urban sprawl that takes that idea very literally. The city spreads on forever with no borders. Districts and neighborhoods emerge as if the city willed them into existence. And as such, the city is a cosmopolitan place filled with people of all backgrounds and creed. Unfortunately, the city also has a monster problem. Whether these creatures existed beyond the walls and were absorbed in, were always there or made manifest by the arcane foundation of the city is unknown. But what is clear is the Slayers have their work cut out for them.
Yeah. So what's cool about this immediately that hit me outside of even the rule set is that, normally I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Blades of the Dark, you're in a walled city, right? You cannot leave the city.
So.
Yeah. And so everything happens within this claustrophobic space. Whereas in Slayers, it's just this ever expanding thing. So it kind of gives you freedom to just keep going and keep going and keep going. So that's one thing that really stood out to me with this. It's kind of the inverse of Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, but Blades is a big inspiration for it, like you said.
Oh
So it's
yeah,
cool
yeah,
that they
yeah,
take the inspo and then kind of, make it their own, which is
yeah.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to what do you need to play Slayers? You're going to need at least two people, one person to be the GM and the rest to be Slayers. So you can just play it as a 2-player game. Someone will need to have read this book, and each player will need a set of polyhedral dice, the full set, D4 to D12, and a character sheet, which you can find at gillrpgs.com on. So there is gotta shoot now friend of the show Spencer Campbell a message. There is a link here, gillrpgs.itch.io/slayers, but it's not hyperlinked, so you can go to that page to get the character sheets. So
Oh man,
we're
you
gonna
gotta
have
copy
to
and paste this. What's going on?
come on, hyperlinks. So cycle of play. Slayers take place in cycles called hunts. At the beginning of a hunt, the GM introduces the Slayers to what they're hired to kill and where in the city the hunt will take place. The Slayers do some investigatory work to figure out the details of what is going on and how to best take down their target. Then the hunt begins.
Mm-hmm.
After hunting their target, the Slayers reflect, take advancements, and prepare for the next job. So get the monster you're going to hunt, go investigate the monster you're going to hunt, get situated, prepare yourself for it. Part 1, part 2, go try to kill it.
Yep.
I like that. I like that there's these two very distinct aspects to it.
And there's kind of downtime stuff later on. We'll get to it.
Exactly. A note from Spencer: there's an important goal for Slayers was to make it easy to learn and play the game, which I mean the rule of 4+ really does. They also wanted to design something that inspired others to create and design on their own. If you want to make Slayer stuff, please do check out the creator kit at a link that's not hyperlinked. And that's the last time I'll bring it up. I'm not gonna, you know me. It won't be, but I'll try. In it, you'll find guidelines and templates for making your own classes, monsters, districts, and more. That's one thing I really, really love about Spencer, and we talked about this bit again yesterday. A lot of the games are super hackable, and he makes them to be super hackable, and not only that, gives you resources to hack the game. So you can actually go get the Lumen SRD, with the Lumen system used for Light and for Nova and for Slayers. And there's already his own versions of Slayers. There's like Dust and Drifters and stuff, which are, if you really like Gunslinger, you should really read some of those. If you like the Gunslinger class. There's a creator kit for it. This even got like page layout and all sorts of stuff. So a lot of resources to hack their games and create more stuff. And even in Rune, which isn't even out yet, there's already fan creations of new realms and stuff to play in. So I love when people really push their games or make their games accessible for other people to make things with, because your community is going to be bigger and tighter and stuff. I mean, look what Mothership did with Zemo and 1E, like giving them the resources they needed really blew that Kickstarter up even more. So it's a great way to do it, and it's really great that Spencer is doing those things. Do you want to talk about the rule of 4?
Yeah. So again, coolest part of this game, there is only one rule that applies to any and all dice rolls. A 4 or higher is hit, and that's any roll. So combat or a skill check, and conversely, any result less than a 4 is a miss. So Slayer takes place between two different modes, combat and narrative. While in narrative, Slayers and the GM resolve most actions and conflict through role playing. So this really, again, like a lot of these games, emphasize, you don't need to roll for every little thing, right? If it makes sense to just, if there are no, I believe he calls it weight in this. If there's no massive chance of failure, like some terrible consequence, try to role play it through, right? Don't sit there and just roll for every little thing you're trying to accomplish. But then the dice are only picked up once a Slayer is attempting an action where there is a chance of failure, what I was just talking about. The consequences of failure have a weight to them. So failure with weight, what that means is something in the fiction will happen if an action fails. When an action fails, move the story forward with the consequence and provide a new opportunity for the Slayers to address. Just saying it doesn't happen isn't very fun or interesting. And I know that is, I guess I love that a lot of these indie designers are taking things that don't work or that we all have frustrations with, playing these larger games, like, the most marketed game on the role-playing game, like you like to call it, where it turns into this thing where, oh, I want to break down the door. Okay, you roll, you fail. Okay, you don't do it. And then you kind of just, it's this massive roadblock. And so I think they're trying to, they're trying to really emphasize that fact here. So I think that's a great rule for any game, honestly. So next up is skills. If the Slayers aren't attacking something, they're probably making a skill roll. So they'll determine what skill is appropriate for the action and then roll a skill assigned to the die. Slayers can assist one another when appropriate. That was a cool thing. Adding the die equal to the helping ally's skill die size. The helping ally will suffer any consequences of the roll, if there are any. Whenever a Slayer rolls more than one dice for a skill roll, use the highest roll. A 4+ is a hit, as we know, and the action succeeds. Anything else is a miss. The intended action fails, and the GM introduces a complication or consequence. So we'll get to skills, but everybody has the same skills. They have the same list of skills. You just assign dice differently to those skills. And so that's sort of like, rather than having ability scores, if you have a D12 on one skill, it's going to be better, obviously, higher percentage of success. So that was kind of a cool concept. And so they have cool. So the version I read did not have this example. So I'll read it really quick. It's an example of play. So Spencer and Kate's characters are trying to track down a cultist who went scrambling down an alleyway. And so a hunt skill roll is called for by the GM. Spencer's character isn't particularly adept at hunting and only has a D6 for hunt. However, Kate is skilled at hunting and has a D10. They roll the two together as their characters are assisting one another, taking the higher roll to determine the result. They get an 8, which is a hit. They spot a piece of torn cloth from the cultist robe on a windowsill and follow after. So again, this is it's just you're making a wager, right? If you're going to help somebody out, that they will still suffer the consequence, but you have a higher probability of success, hopefully in this case. And skills are also used during combat and are resolved the same way as described above when using during a fight. But the NPCs never make skill rolls. They have reactions outside of combat are determined by the fiction and the result of the Slayer's roll. So next up, we have a skill list. So we have agile, brawn, deceive, hunt, mend, negotiate, stealth, street, study, tactics. So a pretty expansive list. I mean, it's kind of like proficiencies, but it's like a combination of proficiencies and ability scores or stats. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, agile is dodging, etc. Brawn is physical stuff, deceive, lying, hunt. That is specific to this game, of course. So it's tracking monsters and monster knowledge. Mending, stabilizing wounds, which is a big part of this game. Once we'll find out about how death works. Negotiate, it all pretty much makes sense. Streets, I guess it would be a unique one. Social circles, navigating the city, purchasing power, study, perception, reading situation, reading a situation or person, doing research. And tactics is a cool one for a specific character class that we'll get into. But that's strategizing, preparing for battle, split-second decisions. So up next is combat. Do you want to take combat?
Sure, I'll hop into combat here.
Go for it.
Cool piece of art here at the top. This kind of, I don't even know. This person holding green lightning and it's racing through their body. So combat is theater of the mind, which is fine. I would probably still play with tokens. I'm not going to lie.
You're a map guy.
I have a problem with keeping things where they need to be in my head.
I agree.
Like I need at least a general. I don't need a grid. And that's what I like about when we play Merkborg. I don't need a grid. I just need a rough variant. So like even when I was playing like We Deal in Lead with Colin Lasore, it was very theater of the mind. I took Post-it notes and just literally like, okay, it's a room. And you said there's something at the top, something at the left, something on the right. So I would just draw like a square and then right at the top is this, at the bottom is this. So my mind can go, okay, it's settled in my mind. I don't know if that's a part of like, I have the worst sense of direction ever. Like when we are in Europe, right? My wife, we can go in the middle of a city, walk across it. I'm completely fucking lost. Can never get back if I need to. No, it doesn't bring up a phone, doesn't bring up anything. She's just like, oh, we'll get back. And just starts walking. And 45 minutes later, we're at our apartment. I'm like, how? So my sense of direction is really fucking terrible. And I think theater of the mind combat just does not work for my brain.
No, I get it. I get it. I think, so, you and I, or all of us, we play on VTT most of the time. And we haven't played in person in a long time. And so I think when I was a kid, I did play in person most of the time. And we didn't use grids. We didn't use maps. We didn't anything like that. But we would have representations of where things were in relation to each other on the table. So I think one thing I've noticed about reading a lot of these zines is they don't necessarily... they're not for VTT. You can tell a lot of them anyway are for around the table. And so I feel like there's a little bit of that lost art, like you were saying, where, hey, I need to like make notes on my own, right? It's my responsibility to know where things are. Obviously, I can ask the GM, but it's an interesting aspect because when you're on VTT, the GM is the one who creates the maps and everything. So you don't have to worry about it. So more prep, needless to say, but But yeah, it's been a while since I played Theater of the Mind.
But again, it doesn't even need to be that much for a game like this.
No.
If it's really broad, like you could even bring up, like if you're streaming, obviously you want it to make it look a little nicer and stuff too. But if
Yeah.
it was just in person, like I would not mind just like even within Zoom, they have a whiteboard function now. And you could literally just have like a black thing and be like, it's a square, it's X here, X here, X here, and then just move those around. Even that's enough.
Yeah, I saw
not
somebody
saying,
actually play Rot Black Sludge that way with like a Zoom map on stream. Yeah.
which is totally fine. Not saying Theater of the Mind is wrong. There's plenty of people that it works really, really well for. But the other thing too is like if you're playing this as just like a two player game, I wouldn't really need a map for that because I know where I am. And then at that point, I can just be with the monster. So it really depends. Exactly. You know, the more things you have on the board, the harder it is to follow. So if it's just you and a monster, it wouldn't be difficult whatsoever. And you could always do a little bit of more. Like I would try to go a lot more Theater of the Mind the farther we got in our DK campaign, and only brought up a map when it was like really going to be tactically combat. So anyway, Theater of the Mind. Combat in Slayers uses the Theater of the Mind, meaning many decisions in combat are based on what makes sense in terms of the fiction rather than mechanically tracking things like movement speed. You don't need a map. We just talked about the whole concept of this. Basically, you don't use a map and tokens and stuff. You just keep it together in your brain if you can. Some can't. Distance is relative. A lot of games use these distances. Engaged just means within melee range or a couple of steps. You know, you could do a quick lunge and get to them. Near is a short sprint away, which is just across the room or the street. And far is anything beyond that. So really there's quick relative distance.
There's one cool thing for you guys out there in YouTube land. There's a channel called Dungeon Craft, and he makes this thing called Ultimate Dungeon Terrain, where it's like on a lazy Susan. And the distances are designated this way. This is also Index RPG works where, and it's nice because you can have combat like with miniatures without having this massive gridded map. And then not only that, if it rolls around. So there's some tutorials on there how to make it. But I thought that was a cool approach to using these sort of kind of somewhat generalized distances.
Yeah. Well, it's like range bands, but depending on where you're at. And I really enjoy this concept of the range bands because it's different for each person too. But like you can have like, if you can hit it, basically the way I've looked at stuff like this is like if you're engaged or close or whatever, you could hit it with your sword. If you're near, you could hit it if you throw like a dagger or a hatchet at it. And if it's far, you would need like a bow and an arrow to hit. And that's it. And just anything in between. There's no ticky tack. Well, you needed 40 feet. You only got to 35 gish. You don't get to do anything this round. Fuck that. And if there's ever any question for how far two things are from another, you just ask the GM. So at the start of combat, before the combat begins, every Slayer has a ready action that they take to get prepared for the fight. Each class has a unique ready action, and once every Slayer has resolved their ready action, you can establish a turn order. And the way turn order works in this system is when combat begins, everyone must determine their place. Each Slayer rolls their class's speed die. Monsters have set speed scores. They don't roll. If a Slayer is tied with a monster, the Slayer acts first, so tie goes to the runner. If two Slayers are tied, they just decide. Easy peasy. And then combat is done in rounds and turns. A round begins with the character with the highest speed and ends after the character with the lowest speed completes their turn. Slayers keep their speed score between rounds. Sometimes an action by a Slayer or monster changes the speed score. And a turn is when a character acts during the round using combat actions. So rounds and turns, if you played games, you know what those are.
Yep.
And then combat actions and movement. Players can take up to 2 combat actions and a move during their turn. Combat actions include attack, quick, and skill, all 3 capital letters. So those are specific things that you can do. Players may make any combination of these actions in any order, but may not do an action twice. So some abilities or advances might allow players to repeat actions. And players can move once during their turns. When you move, you go from one relative distance from a target or location to another. That means you can move from near to engaged or from near to far. Wait.
Yeah,
this can
so
mean moving.
Can't...
Oh, near is the middle, not engaged. Yeah,
exactly. So you can only move
band at a time.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can only go engaged to near or near to far. You can't go engaged to far in an action, which makes sense. Exactly. And then the 3 things we talked about: attack, quick, and skill. When you attack, the Slayer uses unique attack actions. When you're attacking, regardless of the class, any die that rolls above a 4+, don't forget the rule of 4+, are hits for every class. For everything about attack actions, see classes on page 16.
Not hyperlinks. I said it for you.
I didn't. I tried not to. I clicked my tongue, but I think NVIDIA Broadcast took it out. But anyway, so an example, and there's examples of all these. This is the 1.5 is such a better laid out book than 1.
Yeah.
1 was fine,
Yep.
but there's more examples. The art is more consistent. The layout is more consistent. It's really good. The example here is the Blade, which is a class. The Blade attack action rolls 1d6. If they hit, they roll another d6 and continue doing until they roll a miss. So you could go for freaking ever. Really, it got that kind of exploding dice, kind of. Anything above 4, you just keep rolling. Quick actions are opportunities for the Slayers to adapt to the ongoing fight. Each class has a quick action that is designed specifically for them. The example is the Gunslinger quick action lets you reload 2 of the precious bullets you spent during the fight. So, better than 1. And then the skill represents a Slayer's talents. We talked about that before. A Slayer may use a skill to help change their position or gain advantage in some way. To use the skill, you declare what you want and what skill you're using. And if the GM says it's cool, you roll the skills assigned dice. And of course, again, you got to get above a 4+. In some instances, this may afford you a bonus on a future roll based on the success of the skill roll. In others, you may position yourselves to accomplish something you weren't able to do before. A couple advantages and disadvantages of skill rolls. So using Brawn to push away a monster that is holding onto you or an ally. Tactics to gain insight in how the monsters work, perhaps learning its HP or what some of its actions are. After stealthily moving into shadows before launching an attack, the GM decides Slayers should attack with advantage, or you can compel, may convince a desperate foe to back down, but it might also fall on deaf ears. And then, do you want to take over at advantage and disadvantage in attacking?
Sure. So if a character has positioned themselves so that they have the edge on the enemy, they roll the advantage. So this again, situational. This is totally up to the GM to do it. But what you do is you roll all dice twice. You keep the higher result. So this is all familiar to us, with the exception of the fact that a 4 or better is a success. Very different than most games out there with difficulty ratings and stuff. The character's in a really bad position, you, of course, roll with disadvantage. And so you roll all dice twice and you keep the lower result. So again, very familiar stuff. If you've played some games, that is a very common concept. So, but you cannot have multiple instances of advantage or disadvantage, meaning you can't have double advantage. So players and GM should work together to decide when a character has advantage and disadvantage. And here's some examples. So we have ambushing someone for advantage. The target is distracted, using Brawl to knock them down. First, disadvantage of being you are ambushed, immobilized, slowed, or attacking from a great distance. So I think it's all pretty straightforward. It's something, it's a conversation you're going to have with your GM as it goes. So damage and healing and death. So this is kind of cool. I enjoyed this part too. So most attack actions deal damage depending on the number of hits. If an effect or ability gives a character a bonus to damage, it increases. So I believe in this game, static damage. And then there's modifiers to it. So you roll to attack, but then every class, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, has a static piece. And so it's saying here, if an effect or ability gives you bonus, you add that. And then it's subtracted from hit points, another very familiar concept. When not in combat, a Slayer can rest for a day and heal back to full HP. So there's nothing here about like short rest and long rest. It's pretty much like just at the end of the day, you're full. If a monster's HP is reduced to 0, they are dead or defeated. But when a Slayer's HP reaches 0, they are downed. A downed Slayer can no longer take actions or move on their turn. They can be revived by an ally using a mend roll, which we'll talk about when we get to skills and stuff. On a mend roll, the Slayer returns to the fight with half of their HP. On a miss, they remain down. Any spell or gear that would restore HP can be used to stabilize as well. Down Slayers that are not revived during combat or revived with one. I feel like this changed. Did this change from version 1? I feel like
it might have a little bit.
I might have been wrong, but I thought it was like you get one shot at this, and if you don't, that's it. Maybe I read it wrong, but anyway, if a
it
Slayer
is 1.5, there were some small adjustments to it.
So I'm wondering if that was different because I remember reading the death rules and then 1.0, and I was like, oh man, that's pretty brutal. And then if a Slayer takes any damage while they are downed, they die. So I feel like, unless again I read it wrong, it felt like it was a little bit more. This is a little bit more forgiving. So next up we have gear and currency. So this isn't like you're not going to find a massive list of inventory. Slayers have their weapons with them and enough currency to last a day for food and shelter. Anything they want beyond that, they'll need to negotiate for. there's a question on whether Slayer can afford something, they roll streets, which is a capital streets, meaning it's a skill. There is no shopping for better equipment either. Slayer is bound to their weapon. It would only get another if lost. So that's kind of cool.
I mean, you love a good shopping episode.
I love a good shopping episode. So I know that this is like, get rid of the shopping episode. All right, let's just negotiate.
So
let's not make an episode out of it.
For those that don't know, he doesn't love shopping episodes. Just throwing it out there. Just making that clear for podcast land.
That was sarcasm for sure. Ironically enough, there was a shopping episode in Putrescit's Regnant. So there's the irony. So yeah, as it said here, we will not find an extensive shopping table in this book, but here are some items. Here's some example items that you can bargain with or bargain for. So we have healing salves, ointments, tinctures, climbing gear, a spell from a local hedge mage, clothing that is fire resistant, food or bait for a monster, service from a local such as a courier, spy, or healer. So this is cool, right? I mean, I think this allows the players and the GM to create a fiction of their own, and whatever makes sense is available to the characters. So finally, we have reached character creation. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to?
I'll take over for a little bit. We'll let you do the gunslinger. That's your fave.
All right.
Are you ready to hunt some monsters? Let's make a Slayer. So first, choose your class. So what? Let's make a class while we do it. So what are you gonna go gunslinger?
Yeah. Let me scroll down the gunslinger here.
Yeah. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts of making the class. They have little icons next to them. I do like when they're numbered, just because I like the do this, but this works just as well with the little icons on the side. But so choose your class, and then you determine your skill scores. Right, every skill has a size of dice associated with it. Set one skill as a D10, 2 skills as D8, and others as D6. So,
but I need my skill list. This might take longer than the stream would allow.
Yeah, you can just do your D8 and D10 and call them. But I'll just keep reading as you kind of do that. You select 2 basic advances to start with. You can also just kind of like do it, and when we get to Gunslinger, we'll talk about what you put together. You select 2 basic advances to start with. You record your starting stats based on your class and advances you have taken. Then you write down your name on your character sheet and a brief description of your appearance in style. Why did you become a Slayer? Were you trained? If you're trained at all, how long have you been doing this? Will it ever end? So I like that. That's just like a bit of, just give a bit. I don't need a goddamn book. Just a little bit of why you're doing it. So the basics of Slayer classes. While every Slayer is designed to play differently than one another in combat, there's some commonalities they share. Every class comes with HP to represent how much damage they can take in a fight, and a speed die to determine their place of turn order. Slayers also have a ready attack, and quick action, though how these actions work mechanically differs between each one. And all Slayers have a collection of basic and expert advances, allowing them to become even deadlier when out on the hunt. So how do you advance your Slayer? How do you quote-unquote level up? After a successful hunt, your Slayer improves. Before that, however, reflect on the experience and answer at least one of the following questions. What did you learn about yourself from this hunt? What did you learn about an ally during this hunt? Would you have done things differently? What about this hunt will stick with you for quite some time? Once at least one of the questions has been answered, it's time to increase health, a skill score, and choose an advance. So I like this. It's like, it adds narrative into a game that, if you really took that out, would just be, very board gamey, very just like, roll the dice, do the thing. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of Death in Space, how you kind of like get XP from answering questions at the end, but you're not buying XP by doing these things. It's more of a way to just make you think about what you just had. It's just like it's just a recap. But you all get to do this stuff at the end. So you get to increase health, a skill score, and choose an advance. To increase HP, roll 1d4 and increase your HP by that result. To increase one skill, you increase one skill from D6 to D8. If all of your skills are already at least D8, you can increase one skill to D10. Finally, choose an advance. Basic advances may be taken at any time, and expert advances may only be taken after you have 5 basic advances. So the first, we don't need to talk about all 3 classes. So do we want to talk about, let's go Gunslinger, and we'll just read through Gunslinger.
Sure.
All right. Did you assign all your stuff and everything?
Yeah, pretty quickly I
Roughly?
did. Yeah,
Okay.
roughly.
So do you want to read through the Gunslinger? We can talk about what you did.
Sure. So the Gunslinger, while most wield knives or flintlock firearms in the battle, the Gunslinger has access to incredibly rare weapons, a 6-shooter revolver. These weapons are specially crafted, and each Gunslinger has a special connection with their 6-shooter as they carve runes into their liking, which is really cool. A Gunslinger can spray lead and bring down the worst the city has to offer. These dangerous weapons mean most avoid interacting with gunslingers, and many slingers lead lives as drifters and slayers. So what you get 8 HP, your speed is D6, and your damage per hit is 2. And so first and foremost, we have a ready action, which it's called load up. At the start of combat, place 66 in front of you, representing the bullets you gun. I love that. I love that every die represents a bullet. It's a really cool way to take something that is just tactile in real life while you're sitting and playing the game, but then it directly corresponds with literal physical objects in the fiction. So there's also obviously the attack action called spray lead. Gunslingers unload devastating firepower on anyone unlucky enough to be their target. When you spray lead, choose a near or far monster and pick up as many bullets as you would like to fire. You may use bullets from any chamber that you have loaded. Each bullet that hits deals your damage. Bullets that have been rolled are spent and are not available until you use a quick action to reload. So again, that's pretty cool. It's just a way to just figure out, hey, am I going to just like unload my entire cylinder? Yeah, that's what it is on a revolver. Cylinder on this thing, or am I going to just hold back a bit? But what I chose is for my skills, I put D10 to agile. I don't know. I imagine this guy being kind of like Max Payne or John Wick or something, like, leaping around, dodging stuff. I put D8 on hunt because I don't know, it just made sense to me. Like this gunslinger might, he's out to go take down these monsters, and so he's going to be better at that. D8 tactics, because I don't know, I thought maybe figuring out and reading the scene or the combat situation would be a beneficial thing to have for someone. Like I almost picture them kind of looking for that perfect shot, or like spotting like a weak point on an enemy or something. And so that's how I allocated my skills. D6 to the rest of them, obviously. And then I get to pick, is it 2 basic advances, I think?
Yeah. Well, and then you had your quick action was the reload, right?
Oh, the reload. That's right. Yeah. That's right. So a trained slinger knows just the right moment to lay down their guard and prepare their weapon. You may reload up to 2 bullets into any empty chamber. So the basic advances, there's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I chose quick draw, of course. Or no, sorry, not quick draw. Draw, which is going to increase my... No, yeah, quick draw's in there. It requires draw, so I'm going to take draw and quick draw. Increases speed to D10 and always roll with advantage. That sounds pretty cool. So that will I believe speed is the initiative.
Right? Basically, yeah. So you go from D6 to D8, D8 to D10, and then always. So you're basically going to go first, like every time.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's kind of cool. Like it makes sense with the character, and that's what I like about these skills and the classes, is that it sort of allows you to make it your own. You have a generic something called a gunslinger, but you can imagine that gunslinger however you want to. Rather than picking like random backgrounds and stuff, you have these skills, and then obviously the advances to help craft that. But the coolest thing, which I did not take for my character, is runes. So arcane, and this is unique to the gunslinger, arcane magic that only the gunslinger understands, and imbues their gun with great power. When you carve runes into your gun, choose a rune from the following list and write it on a chamber that doesn't yet have a rune. Any bullet fired from that chamber has the additional effect of the rune. A chamber can only hold 1 rune, and once a chamber has a rune, it cannot be undone. And so we have a list here. Hollow Point, which adds 2 damage on a hit. Blast. It deals the damage as normal, but they're pushed back from near to far. So that's kind of cool. That's like you could get somebody. I imagine if somebody is engaged, have another player engaged in combat, you could help them out and shoot that and blow that monster back, which is pretty cool. Tar, it deals 1 damage instead, but the target is tarred, basically. They take 1 fewer actions on the next turn. Snare, It deals 1 damage instead. Target makes their next action with disadvantage. Bleed deals 1 damage instead, but you lose 1 HP at the start of each turn, or sorry, the target loses 1 HP at the start of each turn until it's dead. Finally, the Seeker, you hit on a 3+, so instead of a 4+, you knock down the difficulty. So that's the Gunslinger. Huge. I think that's a really cool character class. That is definitely the one I would play.
Yeah. There's Blade, which is kind of like your fighter. Gunslinger's a little bit different. I feel like he's got a lot of control aspects to it, especially if you take the runes.
Yeah, for sure.
So he feels kind of like a control. There's Arcanist, which is your straight up mage.
Yep.
So you cast spells. There's a whole page list. They get like corruption from spells and stuff like that because your arcane build up causes corruption, which is really cool. There's a Tactician, which again
is cool. This is unique. Yeah, I feel like.
Yeah. And this one again feels like a little bit like it's a mix of like controller and supporter, which is really cool. I like the way that Spencer often uses kind of like the 4 core kind of character roles. I really enjoy that in games. So a lot of times you'll get defender, striker, controller, and supporter. Some call it, I can't remember the other one because I forgot. I haven't called it that in forever, but it's your healer, it's your support role, it's your leader or whatever. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But does a really good job with those 4, keeping those together. And then the next part we get into the city. This place lost its name a long time ago, but that's okay. The name's nothing compared to what happens here. The city keeps getting bigger. So again, we'll chat about this a little bit. We're not going to dig into a lot of the places. At some point in its history, the city was cursed to sprawl, never-ending. Walls and borders are ever shifting. New districts pop up. Some districts disappear. Mourned at first, the memory of their existence is quick to fade. There are a number of theories about what is happening in the city. The city absorbs towns from beyond its wall as it expands, forming into new districts. It would certainly explain the common dialects and customs you find within a district, only to see them quickly take a new shape as you walk to the next. Or the city creates the districts. Why does it do this? It wants to, is driven to, or maybe it can't help itself. If this is true, we're just rats in the city's maze. The city wasn't cursed, but instead has always been like this. Someone or some group is pulling the strings in its expansion. And finally, the city represents just one of a theoretically infinite number of cities. There are parallel cities alongside yours, each spreading out forever, each a little different. But what happened when 2 cities expand so far that they meet? Interesting way. I like that. Make you think about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
All of these are probably true. No, what's up?
Well, I was going to say what I would love for this, because it does sort of encourage you to create your own city, right? There's not some set place. I believe there's an almanac, though, like you mentioned to me, where
there's a Slayer's
people
almanac,
created this stuff. But a roll table would have been awesome. Just to give you a bunch of prompts, and you could like just throw some dice and create the framework of a part of the city. Should have been cool.
I think the almanac has it. There's ideas in the district section, and then I think there's sections within like the Slayer's like resource pack or whatever about like city creation and stuff like that. But yeah, in game would be good. So technology and culture, we talked about it being on the brink of an industrial revolution. Magitech is a burgeoning industry, and one that shares a tense peace between those that prefer the arcane ways of old and those seeking to step forward into the future with science. Listen, if magic was real, fuck science. I mean, come on, let's be real here. Most buildings in the city are made of stone and wood, though they take wildly different shape. Blades are still the weapon of choice, though some wealthy individuals have flintlock pistols, and only gunslingers have their revolvers, these arcane revolvers.
Yeah. I like that. It's like not everyone can have a gun, only the gunslingers have them. So that's a cool concept. Yeah,
I mean, because the flintlock pistol or rifle, I mean, it's like pretty much one shot and drop it. I mean, that's how combat works, you know. But the revolver is dope. It's difficult to describe the culture of the city because it's ever changing. Some are more advanced and run on machines and steam and coal and crystals and things like that. If and when I run Slayers, you know that most of my districts are going to be like old and arcane. I'm going to stay away from the steampunk Eberron style stuff as much as possible because I don't like technology.
I know.
There are factions within the city. Every district has their own like-minded groups. Some of the They span multiple areas, some exceptions being Church of the Cycle or the Wanderers Guild. There's faith within the city. Faith is a funny thing in a place that manifests new ideas in people literally overnight. The biggest following is the Church of the Cycle. The cycle, as it is known, is broken into 5 subsets, each representing an aspect of life, of the life cycle: birth, growth, stability, decay, and death. There's one more branch, so that they were seen as more of a cult, given their heretical beliefs: rebirth. There's plenty of other faiths within the city, and the cool thing about one of the things I really like about the way that this concept of the city ever expanding, constantly having new districts, is you can literally build anything that you want. You can have a new faith, you can have a new style of anything. Like, it could be completely different, and yet it makes sense because that's how the game works, you know?
Yep.
I really enjoy that there's a lot of ways to make the game your own, like just built right directly into it. Travel and news is important. The Wanderers are one of the oldest guilds in the city, and this is apparent in the fact that you can find them in literally every district. Even in the new districts, Wanderers are the first to welcome the newcomers. Wanderer taverns serve food. They know the city better than anyone and are always hauling goods and people from one end to the other. Given the diverse nature of the districts, the Wanderers have built up a fleet of vehicles that are capable of traveling through most terrain. They also use an elevator system in the Witchwoods, and they run the chain ferries across the deep, just to name a few. So given the fact that they travel everywhere, they are responsible for spreading news as well. So I really like the Wanderers. I think it's a cool district, or I think it's a cool group of people who got together and said, we need a way to make this ever expanding city accessible. And I think it's a really smart way to bring in what I imagine would have happened anyway. It basically is your post office, is what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yep.
But in a very like the Postman kind of way.
Right.
You know, very underrated movie. And then order. Most districts worry about protecting themselves. A citywide guard would be difficult to coordinate, so local militias are preferred. But there are some bigger groups. The Inquisitors are a group that hunt the occult threats to the city, which are known as witches, Wyches. I'm surprised that's not capsed. While they have no official jurisdiction, when an instance of cult worship, demonic insurrection, psyker attack, or anything that goes beyond the beast's slayer's typical hunt, the Inquisitors will run their own investigation. Inquisitors usually work in pairs and don't hide their presence. They work off of fear, and it has allowed them to create a formidable presence. My only thing with the Inquisitors is it sounds like they would be seen as the good guys, but the word, I think, at least in people that have read any fucking history book, which is maybe half of America, to me, it immediately is a sense of like, I would be wary of them.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That they wouldn't come for me. You know,
Yeah.
I would love to do a thing where you go into a district that's more kind of like Salem-ish, you know, and you're seeking witches in the background of like a hunt where the Inquisitors are there. You could really do something that's a lot more RP than just a straight up monster hunt. You know, do a little like mix a little Claymore in there too. Lastly, the concept of government. There's no centralized government. It is not practiced given how the city expands. So a lot of it's local leaders and things like that. So that's how that works. So, do you want to talk about building the city?
Yeah, let's do it. So building the city. First and foremost, we see somebody who is drawing a map. So creating your own version of the city is as much a part of playing Slayers as hunting the monsters. As you build your city, consider districts, factions, and mapping. So this is a toolkit that sort of guides you along on how to create these districts. Because the city is ever expanding, there doesn't seem to be any sign of it stopping anytime soon. There are tons and tons of endless districts. So it's an abstract unit of space meant to describe an area of the city which shares a number of features, and these features are down below. So description, obviously, we want to know what it looks like, its role, what's typically found there, other important cultural touchstones. Districts can be very different from one another, so don't worry. If the tone of one district doesn't match its neighbors. So once we get down to the districts, there's an amazing piece of artwork or illustration that kind of really describes that fact. It illustrates it. So next is key locations. So 3 or more locations that are important to the district. These don't have to be locations the Slayers might visit, but they might help, but they help keep the theme of the district clear and present. So again, it's just all about creating atmosphere for your players. And then finally, rumors. These are the hooks, right? There are opportunities that the Slayers can follow up on in the district. Typically, each rumor is the start of its own hunt, though you may string rumors together to show a more sizable issue. So that could be a multi-tiered investigation. These three are needed for every district, but you should also consider what makes the district unique. What kind of food? What do the houses look like? What's the fashion, et cetera, et cetera. So again, it's just trying to give you a little bit of a toolkit to flesh out your own district. But another big aspect of what makes a district is the people. Who's inside it? Let's consider factions. So just like before, where we have a toolkit of how to create a district, we have a toolkit of how to create factions. We've already seen some, but there's innumerable amount of them because, again, city's ever expanding. Designing a faction of the city is a group activity, though the GM may want to create a few factions of their own if they intend to use them antagonistically or as a surprise. What goes into a faction? So again, this is cool. I love the idea of creating a shared world with the players and the GM. It's not just all up to the GM. That just it gives the players more skin in the game. I feel like they're more attached to it. They feel a sense of ownership, which is really cool. So the 4 things you need in a faction: purpose. Why do they exist? What's their purpose? Is it hidden behind a message or other action? People. Who makes up the faction? Who is attracted to its purpose and who is repulsed? And how do the people of the district feel about them? Actions. When slayers of the general public see the faction out and about, what should they expect to see? Some factions want a strong presence. Some may be like secret societies hidden in the gloom. And then size and scale. How big and influential is the faction? This is especially important given that the city spreads and most hunts take place in a single district. Is the faction unique to the district, or is their influence felt across multiple districts? So I immediately think of something like, the Empire and the Rebels in Star Wars, right? So very small faction versus very big influential faction, and you can mix and match and twist it however you want to, however it fits your game. Then and now we have a sense of the places and people inside them. What happens when we step back and try to see everything as a whole? So this is the mapping section. So first and foremost, there is no official map because we've, ad nauseum, we've realized that this thing's ever expanding. So there's no point to make a map. But how do you keep track of something like this? An unending urban sprawl where there are a few options to consider as your table begins to build the city. First, you may use a blank grid like a hex map. Ooh, I like hex maps. And fill in the tiles as your group explores the setting. So that's kind of neat, right? It's like you're unlocking a map in a video game or something. You're just moving along and it reveals itself as you go. Start somewhere in the middle of the map and decide which empty hex to use next time the slayers go to a new district. Afterward, you have an actual map that you can rely on and use if you want to try. So it's you're creating the map as you go, which is kind of a cool concept. You may also choose to use a more abstract map, given the fact that the city shifts so much. You may adopt that into your map so that no district is ever a set place. Write the names of the districts on cards or pieces of paper, shuffle them before play, and lay them out. So that's another way to randomize the place, kind of just just reinforce the sense of the atmosphere in this game. I think is that everything is ever shifting, ever changing, which brings us to the image I was going to talk about is the district. So we see this like fractured, almost like stained glass image, and we can see how very different each one of these districts are. So we have looks like trees and stuff, which I believe they've already alluded to. In the upper right-hand corner, we have more of a typical, and in the upper left, we have more of a typical kind of dark and gloomy city. We have a seaside area with a lighthouse. We have a city that has, it looks like a spell book open. I'm assuming that's more of an arcane district, and many others, more industrialized stuff. So I think this is a really cool image to, again, just show like, hey, make it broad, make the spectrum wide. Slayer's Row. So do we want to talk about these, or do we want to just kind
of? We'll kind of. I mean, we can just parse through like a little bit, but we're not going to dig too deep in the districts. Yeah. There is an almanac, but so Slayer's Row is a district where most slayers end up between jobs. So the way that the location works out is you're going to get key locations, factions, and NPCs, right? So this page here is talking about various key locations. The Slay Wild is a popular inn for the Slayers. There's a flesh market Blade Academy, Blyce Boutique. So some primary locations. You get some rumors here about Slayers. Like some Slayers have been flashing more coin than usual, most after leaving the flesh market. Why could they be doing that? And then that's the whole district right there. It's 2 pages. You got the intro page, you got the key locations, and you got some rumors. There's the Witchwood. I love this page. I love this font. It looks really cool. Yeah. It says gold. It says Witchwood, WICH. There's like a half moon in the background, and there's layers of woods with this like bridge going across the space. And again, key locations, rumors, and that's it. The Librarium is the district. The underground, another great piece of art here. What would you call this kind of art style? It's very like vectory, right? Like layered.
Yeah, it's like it's vector illustration, but it's kind of, it's stylized, it's simplified. Kind of like, I think the cover of Fiasco looks somewhat like this. If I remember right.
Yeah. Very like icon-y kind of.
Yeah. But it's not cool, like... and what I love about it too is every one of these districts, the image is the entire background. So you immediately get a sense of how this place feels, what it's about, without you needing to see like an exhaustive description of it, which is cool.
Well, and then all of the district, like you just said, like pictures there, it's a very different color scheme. It's a very different building style. And like I said, there's like these layers where you get like a foreground, middle ground, background, sky behind with the way the art works. So you really get a sense of depth within the district art. Chromatic, bizarre, dizzying, and colorful district. Obviously, that's Arcane district. Agora it looks straight up like ancient Greece. It definitely has this like what is the Colosseum style vibe to the windows. It's got these arched domes on the top of the buildings. It is one of the oldest districts. It does have a Colosseum, amphitheater, all those kind of things. So, and again, very, very different feel than the other ones. The Wharf is obviously a waterfront district. And then we get into monsters. So let's talk about one or two monsters and the way that they lay out monsters here. So we got monster is a catch-all term for anyone that the Slayers decide to fight. Usually these are beasts and creatures, but humans can be pretty monstrous too. Here is an example monster. It's called a creep. The art reminds me of it's a rapidly growing plant in human shape, which erodes stone and strangles anyone it can get its quote-unquote hands on. And it is a symptom of a sickness infecting the city. It's got a passive ability, which is Feed Me. Once a creep has dealt damage to a Slayer, it makes all of its attacks against the Slayer with advantage. That's sucks.
Cool. That's cool.
Actions. I imagine this is kind of like it left like a little bit of its plantness on it, and now it can like kind of communicate with it almost a little bit. Actions, it's got 1+ move, so it can do 2 different actions. There's Wrap, which is a 1d8. Near, target Slayer takes 1 fewer actions on their next turn. That's nice. And then Venom, 1d6 engaged, 1 damage per hit. The Slayer loses 1 HP whenever they miss an attack action the rest of combat. This thing is a beast.
That's kind of crazy.
5 HP and 3 speed.
Near, well, not only that, but like when they're near, which is not engaged, they can wrap you. So it's got like these massive vines or something that
they imagine they're shooting vines out. There is a reaction, Strangle. If an engaged Slayer is hit by Wrap, make a Venom attack against them. Like, this is hard. But also, when we look at the classes, especially like the Blade, I mean, you can hit and hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. So these things got to be, I like that. I prefer this system where things have low HP, but high damage output. It makes them feel deadly without being fucking sponges, which is cool. And this just has like a breakdown of what monsters are. So you get an HP. When it reaches 0 HP, they're dead. It has a speed, but there's a set speed value, and you assign your speed to Slayers. It has a number of different actions. We talked about the multiple actions on that. Actions per turn equal to the number listed next to actions, obviously. And each monster is unique. And the rule of 4+ always applies to rolls. Roll 4+ is a hit. And the required distance are listed. For example, Snare, 1d6, near, Slayer becomes entangled. We talked about that. Passive. Some monsters have ongoing effects called passives. These don't need to be activated, but instead are always present. And then reactions, a monster may also have one or more reactions available to them, and we talked about that as well. So monsters don't have skills and don't normally roll for them. There might be some rare versions where they can, and you would just use a d6. And then there's a whole section here about creating monsters, starting on page 74, not hyperlinked. But you'll probably want to start making your own monsters too. Consider the following. We don't need to dig too far into that.
No.
You can
Cool
read
art,
about
though.
creating
Cool art
monsters.
here. I love that
Yeah.
serpent thing at the bottom. This is nice.
Oh, with like the almost like Eldritch tendril coming across the bottom. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, it's a 2-page spread, so it's like
That's
like
what
you
I'm
said,
talking about,
it's a
the other
snake
end of it.
serpent dragon
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, I always read in pages, so sometimes I miss the spreads. So
same.
there's a whole GM section here now that we're not going to really dig deep into. Some of it's redundant, which is fine. I like that the players get part of it, and then GM gets kind of a further explained version of it. Spencer has done some good GM sections before, like the Nova GM section was actually really good. Surprisingly really good. Not that surprised that it was good, but I was just like, wow, this, like, there's a lot of really good information in it. So we don't need to go over again what the city is, what the rule of 4+ is, what asymmetry means, what balance is. And then there's a talk here about what rules light means. Not really need to go into that either. It's just allowing intentional interpretation into the game, as opposed to trying to pick out every single itty bitty instance and edge case and crap like that. That's how you end up with the 600-page rule, where it's like, how do I want them to do this exactly? Who cares? Give them a structure and a framework and let them go. That's why I like rules light a lot better. And then do you want to talk about the hunt?
Sure, the hunt. We know what that is already. It's a game mechanic. So it doesn't take long for slayers to find out that any district they visit has a monster problem. Sometimes the locals gather together resources to hire slayers. Other times the rumors and legends of a neighborhood are too good to pass up. Either way, when the slayers agree to deal with a monster problem, they go on a hunt. So again, this is how to design a hunt.
That's a great piece of art here, though.
Yeah, it's cool.
Love
it's like
that.
it's like a skull. It's like leading up to a stairway into a door, but it's like chained to this, I don't know, it looks like a castle kind of wall.
Yeah, it's like a giant, like you said, giant monster skull with stairs going into its mouth. But with the chains, it looks like you could almost like shut the skull to shut off the door, which looks really cool.
Lower the upper part of the skull. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So again, this is reinforcing what we've talked about already. So designing a hunt, slayers is played in a cycle called hunts, in which the slayers enter a district of the city and are tasked to find a monster by a local NPC or faction. Sometimes the hunt is more than simply monster killing. Slayers may find themselves at the center of even greater trouble, such as faction wars, arcane rituals, and more. So I think, again, because of the name is called a hunt, we may think that that is all it's going to ever be. But here it's trying to explain, like, you can expand that idea to make a longer play or less repetitive play. So next up, we have monsters. Consider which district the hunt will take place in when choosing your monsters. How would they fit in the environment? Make changes to the monsters to fit the hunt. So again, reinforcing the idea, make it feel like everything belongs where it should. Don't throw like a monster that doesn't fit into a particular district, right? If you have if you're in one of the districts where there's like a lot of airspace and you have a dragon or something, but then you're in the underground, you may want that creature to embody that environment, right? Next is locations. While the hunt takes place in a district, that can be a pretty large area to cover. A list of locations that the slayers may visit in order to either find or learn about the monster keeps the hunt focused. You'll need at least the location or the layer of the target, and then consider other locations that are along the way. So this helps it, I feel, so you don't feel so overwhelmed, because when you read about a never-ending city, an unending sprawl of a city, it could be confusing. But this is trying to say, hey, think of these key concepts, and that'll help you out. Obviously, here we are with factions again. What are they interested in? There are always some factions that are interested or involved in the Slayer's work. Consider the attitudes and purpose of each of the factions in the district when deciding who would hire the Slayers, who might want to see it stopped. And then here again, it says, monsters are cool to hunt, but that's going to be uninteresting for some time. So add some spice to it. Non-combat. So while Slayers is a game about monster fighting, the entire session does not have to be filled with one combat encounter after another. This is Great advice, I think, for any game, honestly. Like you don't want to have just fight, 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 fight. It's going to be exhausting. It's going to feel repetitive. It's not going to be as fun. So it's just trying to advise break that up a bit. Numbers, Slayers is not designed with combat balance in mind, which is another cool thing. I know a lot of games out there, they're trying to advise you to balance encounters with player level. That's not how it works here. And a lot of rules like games is the same way, because they're like, hey, yeah, dragon lives there. I don't care if you're level 1. That's just where this dragon lives. If you decide to go in and fight it, it'll kill you. So it's just trying to remind you that, like, it's not a video game where you are, even though inspired by video games, where they're going to make sure that the opponents you are up against are going to be balanced to your skill level at the time. But anyway, you'll learn the limits of Slayers through play, and that is what is important to include multiple encounters and multiple locations. Start with some easy ones, and then gauge the Slayer's power. Start to crank up the difficulty as the hunt goes on. And then finally, we have some example hunts at the back. So the adventures, I guess you could call them, in another game. They're designed with a 3-act structure so that you can comfortably pace your session and keep things going forward. You aren't required to follow the structure when playing them or when designing your own hunts. Instead, use these examples as opportunities. See how different hunts might play out. So, this, I'm a huge fan of games that include an adventure written by the creator, because I want to know what the intention of the designer was, right, before I go off on my own. Now, again, that's just me. I just love feeling like this cohesive kind of bubble of this game, the atmosphere, the tone of it. And that is what we're treated to with Lords of the Undead, which is the included one. I know we're not going to go through it because we don't want to spoil it for anybody.
We don't read the adventures here when they're included. So go buy the fucking book. Support the creator.
Yeah.
But Lord of the Undead immediately makes me go, yes, this is the one I want to play. And it looks like, just from the art at the top, there's some type of necromancer and a whole chain of various sized zombies and things coming towards it. So obviously it makes me feel like a certain way right away with my little edgelord bullshit. So
yeah, that's what I was saying. You might rename it to edgelord or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's really nice. I mean, even as we go through it, just for chat to see for a second, or for the stream to see for a second, there's some monsters included in it. There's a bunch of different things to do. It's broken up into 3 acts. You got a big bad boss monster. There's multiple adventures in here. There's also the Cult of the Disjointed Hand, which is another hunt example. There's Reputation, which is yet another hunt example. And then we get to a bestiary section, where it breaks down things like Alley Troll, Bandit Leader, Blink Dog. There's a whole long list of monsters. I think it encompasses, how many pages does it actually encompass? It goes from page 74 all the way down to page 87. So you got, how math works, like 13 pages of beasts with like 2 to 3 on each page. It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's a cool spread here at the back where there's this giant kind of knight with a floating head with this arcane stuff around it, and you got a blade, an arcanist, and a gunslinger, kind of battling across it. The art again is that kind of icon, they're silhouetted against a background, very vector style. And then at the back you have character sheets for the different classes. The character sheets are laid out just like the rest of the book is laid out, but really, I think it's super clean. I think it's really well done.
Easy to read. That's what I was gonna say. And they're all customized for each class. So the gunslinger has a little cylinder, on it.
Oh yeah. I like the cylinder with the bullet thing, like you just said. That looks really fucking cool. And the list of the runes. It does have the layout. Just because it's an RPG layout, does remind me of the 5e character sheet just a little bit, in that your name and stuff is at the top left, your HP and speed and everything are across the middle, and all of your stats go along the left.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's definitely a lot cleaner. There's a lot less stuff. Which 5e is already talking about expanding. It's already bloated bullshit rules, but whatever. 1D&D guys. There is a rules reference page that has a list of how combat goes, the cycle of combat on it. Another piece of art at the end, a cool kind of bone mage and lich kind of style guy. And then the last page, monster hunting in a cursed city. Better get to work. really cool layout spread here of what's obviously a slayer walking across a bridge into a district with the moon behind it.
You know what I didn't notice before? Now that I see this pattern page, that's opposite, it almost looks like there's light spilling onto it. There's those like highlights on it.
Oh yeah, with
The
the
diamond
top right
pattern.
here and
That's
stuff.
pretty cool. Yeah, it's almost as if
it's cool.
Yeah, it kind of
I like how they
reinforces
break
to
it
me
up a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of like all the lights in the city are shining down. That's cool.
Great. And that everybody is Slayers. I think our Kickstart the Podcast and our review of the game are about the same length. We're right at like 2 hours. So that's it. So we actually haven't done a score of a game in a while because we've been hitting a bunch of zines and doing a lot of interviews, which has been really, really amazing. But we're going to do it on this one. I mean, this is clearly a long enough book and a long enough game to do that too. So let's kick over to the review screen here for Slayers by Spencer Campbell of Gila RPGs. So since we haven't done the scores in a hot minute, let's talk about what they are. There's 5 different scores that we give values to, and the values go from 1 to 10, average obviously being 5. 5 does not mean bad. 5 is bang average. 5 is, you'll see, just about the same as every other one. We got art and style, which is the art, quality, quantity, and all those things used throughout the book, and the style, as in, is there a consistent style and things like that. That's number 1. The second one is layout and function. It's more like just functionality in general, and by layout it doesn't mean artistically how it looks. It's more like the function of the layout. Are the pages readable? Is there consistency? Is it hyperlinked, which is a huge part of it? So we know. There's this rule set and crunch is the next one, where it's basically do we like the rules? If it's a new rule set, do we think it's good? If it's an adapted rule set, is it adapted well? And crunch is really just like, if it calls itself rules light, is it rules light? Or does it feel like there's way too much stuff in the game? Originality is a very broad term. It's originality in the rule set, originality in the lore, originality in any aspect really of the game. So that one's pretty broad. And then there's value. Value is important because if I can't afford your game, I can't play your game. And other games are making themselves really unaffordable and have been for quite some time.
Ryan can afford your game, guys. Out there. He can afford all the games.
If there's a special edition Kickstarter version, I can afford that. So anyway, so value is an important number because it's accessibility in the game. If you make your game $1 million, no one's going to be able to play your fucking game. So what's the point? So that's what's important. So starting with art and style, I know you had read Slayers 1, and the Slayers 1.5 is a completely different layout, vast improvement. Yeah. I mean, I still love the cover of the first one, which is behind me here, like the oil paint kind of version.
Yep.
But like you said, the consistency and style throughout of 1.5 is a vast improvement.
Yep.
I do like the art style. I think it's definitely a specific style. I think there's a lot of I love the layers to it, and I really like the consistency of the art style throughout. I do, me personally, just subjectively, not objectively, like
hand-drawn
different
stuff.
Style, like a little bit more hand-drawn or sketchy or inked or things like that. But objectively, it's good. It's really good. It definitely gives you, every page gives you vibe and everything like that. So
I agree with you. I like it, but it's not my favorite kind of art. But more than anything, it is consistent. That is my biggest gripe with so many games out there, is they'll be like, and I think it's cool to add different artists to a game, but this, at least to me, carries throughout the atmosphere. It paints a picture in my head. That's a big deal to me with games, and that this has it. So when we look at art and style, we like to, the other thing about the way that we do rules is a lot of times we will base the way that we score things compared to other things that we've scored. We're like, I really like this art, but I do like this other art better. What did we give that score? Right. So when I bring up all our old scores, if I look at ones that have got a 10, obviously, like there are very few games that have 10s in any stat. Mark Borg has a 10 in art and style. I mean, come on. It is literally an art punk book. Yeah, it's redefined. I feel like you can see so many influences.
Yeah.
of Mercborg.
Others with high scores, look at like Necronihilus and Warpland, both still have that kind of like almost art book style to them. Then like Into the Odd is an 8, Kingdoms is a 9, things like that. Like even Viking Death Squad had a ton of great art in it. Death in Space is a 9. So compared to those games, Cyborg is a 10 too. I think there are only 2 10s, and we got a bunch of 9s. So compared to those things, Death in Space being a 9, Mercborg being a 10, other things like Nova was 7, Mothership Original was a 5. Where would you think that you would throw the art and style score for this?
I would probably give this around like a 7-ish, maybe. I don't know. What are you thinking?
I think that's what works for me. Like Arc. This reminds me a bit of Arc, and we gave Arc a 7. So I mean, there's a lot of art. It's really consistent. It just comes down to a little bit of our style preference, but the consistency is really, really great throughout. I really like that.
It's a massive.
I'm good with a 7 on art for this. Layout and function. Okay, so let's just go layout first because we know what I'm going to say next.
Yeah.
Layout wise, I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's laid out very well, very easy clean.
Yeah.
A lot of great art spreads throughout, which is really, really nice to see. Like we talked about some of those pages where it's a full art spread with just a little paragraph in the middle, so you get some vibe for the paragraph you're reading.
Yep.
I think that's great. I think the layout itself is super, super solid. If it was just that, I'd probably throw this to an 8, probably really easy. It's just super readable.
But
fucking hyperlinks, man. Come on. Now, let's check one other thing real quick. Is it bookmarked?
Let's see. Where's my bookmarks at?
You don't need to look too far because there aren't any.
Yeah, I don't see any. Yeah.
So come on, as far as a PDF in 2022 with its online functionability, readability, if I was playing this on VTT, I'd really like to be able to navigate this a lot easier. I think that's a big loss to not have hyperlinks, the inline hyperlinks where it says on page 17. You should be able to click that, like the links that go to the it's kind of, what's the point of putting a link to a website if you can't click on that within the PDF? So I don't know if that was an oversight, because I know that, like, I know Nova and all the rest of them are all hyperlinked, so I don't know if it was just an oversight. But that's a big oversight to me, I think, to not have any digital functionality on a PDF.
Yeah, I predict that will be remedied after this.
Well, we'll see. And it's not like there's a ton, the table of contents, there's not a ton of hyperlinks within it, but the bookmarks kind of, I mean, a lot of like when you're writing things up will automatically create bookmarks. So I think that's a loss. So layout and function wise, it's hard because I think the layout is really good, but the complete lack of digital functionality really gives me a bug. What are you thinking?
So you were going to say an 8 if it was hyperlinked, right?
Yeah.
So how, I guess it depends on how much lower do you how much do you knock off for no hyperlinks?
I mean, they're huge, they're important to me, but I do think, giving it like a 6 is really a disservice to how good the layout is. I'm feeling like 7 on here.
Yeah, I agree. Easy to read. I was never lost. I never felt things were redundant in such a way, or skill, terminology was established before I knew what it was, and so yeah, it's easy to go through. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So next is rule set and crunch. We like it.
I like it. I like
4
it.
plus.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. So I did bring up a page here just so we can talk about dice odds. I do like looking at dice numbers and dice odds. So when you do your skills, you get what, 1d10, 2d8s, and then everything else is a d6, right?
Yep.
So looking at those averages of numbers, right? Because you're like, oh, well, it's all you have to do is beat a 4.
Well, so, 4 and a d6, yeah.
A 4 and a d6. So an average dice roll on a d6 is a 3.5. So on average, you won't succeed on a d6 on average. A d8 is a 4.5. So you barely break into the average succeeding on a 4 plus. And then a d10, the average is only a 5.5.
Oh, wow.
So
that's what I was curious about. Yeah,
you're not blowing out of the water with a lot of these. Basically the average for almost everything is basically half plus 0.5. The average on a D4 is a 2.5. So when you really think, like I said, about a D68 and a D10, you just take half of that plus 0.5. You're not, the highest you're really rolling on average is a 5.5. So below your D10, you're basically at 50-50 or less to succeed. So, I think there is a lot of chances for succeeding. I think the way that advantage works, you'll have a lot higher chance. I think more than likely you will do the things. Yeah,
helping as well is a huge concept.
But the that's kind of a hallmark of Spencer's games is like it's not. I wouldn't describe his games in any way as like brutal as far as making it hard for you to do things. The way that he likes to do a lot of games is to give you the capacity to do cool shit. Because why the fuck not, right?
Yeah.
This one maybe a little bit different than like Nova as far as like just always having those options. You can't even die in Nova. But I think the numbers really work out well. I think it's great. And the more you advance, the more hunts you do when you get all of your D6s up to D8s, you're much more likely to succeed on a lot of stuff, but there's always a chance for failure. I like it.
But and not only that, again, it's really, failure with weight, right? Only roll when there's a big deal. It's a big deal. So
I do like the way that the acts of a hunt are laid out. I like the investigatory aspect. Really lets people that like the RP. The other thing is, you don't have to. You can create a character that's really, really more designed for the first part if you want. Like you can create one instead of like hunt and agility and so and stuff, like doing things like tactics and a lot of the other things that allow you to talk more. Like you can really create a character that's not even necessarily like combat oriented, that will help a lot more in part 1 than in part 2, because if you create like a purely combat character, the part 1 for you is going to be a lot harder when you're trying to investigate things. So I like that there is a differentiation between those things, and a real emphasis on playing both aspects. So
yeah,
I like it. I think it's well done. I think it's cool. I think it's super hackable. I think that, again, there's already, hacks that he has done for this. If you really like the Gunslinger, Drifters is fantastic. So what are your thoughts on Rule Set and Crunch?
At least an 8, I would say. I really don't have any complaints,
Yeah, I think 8 feels really good. 8 feels really good. So Arc is one that has a 7. I wanted to get Arc up to 8 when we were talking about that, but it just didn't quite do it for me on like one or two of the things. But like Mothership 1E is an 8, Order Blues is an 8. This feels like right there to me. I really like this. So. Nova was an 8, so yeah, I think this looks really good as far as that's concerned. Originality. So this is across all parts. What are your thoughts on that?
So originality, like I said, it feels very much like Dishonored, Blades in the Dark. I don't feel like it's really setting wise bringing a lot to the table. It does definitely expand upon that stuff though, because in Dishonored and Blades in the Dark, it's a very kind of almost Victorian-esque setting, right?
Setting within tabletop role-playing games, not necessarily just like video games or whatever too.
I guess. There is a Dishonored role-playing game, but I guess like I've seen this before. So it's kind of hard to say this is 100%. Oh wow, this is amazing, blowing me away.
It's not. Yeah.
But
clearly, like a lot of Blades in the Dark part with the dice and things too.
Yeah, exactly, and it does expand upon. It does bring something new, right? So it's not all dark and dreary and stuff. You have these different districts and settings, and that you can make it what you want. So it does try to sort of differentiate itself away from Blades in the Dark or Dishonored. So I don't know. I 6-ish maybe. I don't know. What are you thinking?
I was thinking more like high 6, low 7 kind of thing. When I look at, we even gave Troika a 7, Lancer a 7. A lot of things got 8s. Like Into the Odd setting got an 8. Which honestly probably, or originality, Into the Odd probably should have got bumped up.
Yeah,
on that.
That's pretty bonkers. Yeah, I've never seen anything like Into the Odd, really. So yeah.
But
I could do 6 or 7. Like I said, it feels familiar, but there are some things that they updated to kind of.
We'll do a 7. And then we also have to look at not just like the setting and stuff, look at the rules a bit too. I do like the 4+. I do like that. I think the combination of all the different aspects, like you said, like there's the familiarity, but definitely a separation, which I really enjoy.
I have not played a rule set like this. So yeah, that's original.
So when we look at Slayers right now, so Gila RPGs, we'll go to the website here. You can get print, and so let's go to the digital store and the physical store. So if you wanted to get Slayers right now digitally, you're looking at $15 for the entire PDF of this, which is like 95 pages, right? And if you're looking at the physical print, the Slayers is $25 for a hardback. I believe they're hardback. I know the first one was. I think hardback. So $25 ain't bad for a 100-page book. There is also the Slayers Almanac, which is $25. So when we talk about value too, it's not just the exact cost of the game. It's the additional things you can get for it, right? So you can get the digital version. You can get the physical version. In paperback or hardback, yeah. So paperback is $25, hardcover is $40, which is a teensy bit expensive for a 100-page book. I think 35 is where we really called.
Sure, but it comes with multiple hunts. It comes with, I don't know. I feel like there is some value definitely when you can just have this game and then just play it more than once. You know,
what I'm really curious about, and I can't find it here, is if you buy the hardcover, do you just get the PDF with it? So that's a big deal. Yeah. I can only imagine you do. I can't imagine that you would have to pay $40 for the hardcover edition and then another $15 to get it digitally. Right. I can only assume it comes with it. That might be a bad assumption, but I think we'll go on that assumption. So $40 for the hardcover. Again, there is a Slayer's Almanac, which is like a whole freaking expanded content where there's a ton more districts, right? So what's inside? It's 10 unique districts, each written by a different author, all still done with Mike Reeman's art, which is the consistent art throughout their book. Each district has a hex map, a travel guide, factions, rumors, everything that you want from it. So that's cool as like another thing that you can get for the game. The resource pack is really cool. You've talked about this before too. You can get a whole batch of resources in the creator kit. You get affinity publisher templates. You get PDF templates, you get Word doc templates, you get the entire creator kit, which I have. So let me go to Dropbox and actually see what all comes in just the creator kit. And obviously, not only does it have like an open source license, it tells you straight up and build shit for this, please. So that's a huge point that we really like. So the creator kit, when I bring up the PDF for that, is 9 pages, and it really breaks down like how to create a new class, how stats work, class variations, creating monsters. So with all of those, with all the templates, with everything, I mean, I think that's huge. That's a huge part of the value of the game. Like especially if you really like hacking systems and doing stuff, that's big. I think the costs are appropriate, especially for smaller creators. Sometimes it does cost a little bit more because you don't get they're not buying 10,000 at a time and getting like a bulk discount. So I think the value as far as the actual numbers look good. I think there's a ton of content, and I think not only that, on top of Slayers, not only that, do you get a bunch of content for Slayers itself, but if we're talking about options for expanded content, if you look at the other games that Spencer's put out within the Slayers world, there is Drifters and Dust. So there's other ways to play the games in completely new worlds. So I'm a huge fan. I think that there's a lot of value to this game. What are your thoughts on that?
It sounds like you've convinced yourself. You started out with, wow, that's $40 is a lot. Now you're like, holy shit, there's actually a lot of stuff.
Well, when you add like the rest of the things that really bring value to the game, I think you have to give a lot of points for that. So I think cost wise, it would be just a flat 5. I mean, it's average, if not a little bit expensive.
Okay.
Flat for the game, but add in third-party license, add in the ability to hack with a full creator kit, including a huge amount of templates, third-party license, and already created and entirely new hacks created by the creator themselves. I mean, that's huge. I think value-wise, yeah, we're looking at high 7, low 8 right here easily.
All right.
And I'm down for an 8 on value, realistically.
Let's do 8.
All right. So that is a very consistent score, which I really prefer games that are super consistent. We have some where like the art is a 9 and the rules are a 4, you know, and it really pulls the average to a minimum, but tells you a very different way that the story is told. So the only reason we even really put a flat, like a total at the bottom, is to just get like a rough estimate. But when you're looking at these scores, make sure you look at the ones that are important to you. You know, if the art is really important, look at that score. If the rules is really important, look at that score and really define what it is. So if we got 7 plus 7 plus 8 plus 7 plus 8, right? We're looking at a 37.
37.
Yeah, which is solid. It's a solid score. When you look at other games that are right around a 37, I mean, Rune Cannon was a 36, Overarms is a 36, Gun and Slinger, which has some stuff that reminds me of this a little bit, was a 38. Nova was a 38. So a lot of the scores, I think that's really consistent. And it feels about, when I look at the other games that have that score, it feels about that. So yeah, that is Slayers.
Cool.
Yeah. Would
Cool game.
you
Cool
play
set.
some Slayers?
I would play some Slayers. You know, I'm already gonna make a gunslinger just in case.
There you go. There you go. We got to get more GMs, really. So for those that are unaware, we are the Adventure Archive. The Weekly Scroll is a podcast within the Adventure Archive umbrella. So you want to follow us on the Adventure Archive on YouTube. But we do have an actual play side. Jason is really our only GM right now until I stop being fucking lazy and get doing it. But we got Merkborg, we got Death in Space going on right now. We got Cyborg coming up soon. We got a whole lot of stuff going on, and eventually I'll start working on. I really want to do a series of games that are kind of like OSR, NSR, Rules Light, whatever variances of that, like things like Durf, things like Bastards, games like that. I really want to get into a lot of short games, introducing a lot of rule sets we've talked about on the stream. So those are our plans. We just have to actually implement them. And we'll see how it goes. I'm much more settled in after my recent move, and we'll just kind of see what happens. That's it. That's Slayers. That's our episode this week. Check out, again, if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to the interview with Spencer Campbell, please go listen to that. Follow us on all of our socials. We are the.weekly.scroll on Instagram. We are weekly_scroll on Twitter. We're the Adventure Archive on YouTube. Do us a huge favor, drop us a sub on there. We are pushing closer to 500 every day, and Jason gets cool stuff to do with it from there. And that's it. Jason, thank you so much for being here for this.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed reading the game, going through. It's been a blast.
Yeah, and then we'll see what happens next. I think the very next thing we're going to have is Adam Vass here on Monday. So definitely come check out that interview with Adam Vass, and we'll see what happens after that. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.